Welcome back to MagusintheMedia. Today we get to veer into the strange realms of mainstream podcasting as we are going to dig deep into whatever it means to be somebody called Tucker Carlson, whatever it means to be somebody called Sean Stone, son of Oliver Stone, that we all know, who has created those movies, who is trying to help push a narrative. But the other idea is exactly that, is that what kind of narratives are being set in this modern day and age where demons, aliens, secret societies, and the occult has finally become mainstream. But first, before I get into the deep understanding of why Tucker Carlson, why Sean Stone, and why now, we have the great Cardinal Head himself, the creator of the Occult Rejects, that place that we all love to go and listen to veer into the strange, the higher, the sacred, the great Nick. How you doing today, Nick?
Good. Thank you very much for that amazing intro. I'm doing great. I always love working with you. I love coming on your show, and I think this was actually a really, really good topic to cover. Because I could just say for myself as we're going into it, I think this is a perfect example of how people get mind fucked with bullshit because it's also peppered with some real shit in there. Just my opinion from listening to about, almost all of it. There was a lot of times I'm like, yo, this is so silly. And then I'm like, yo, this guy's dropping some deep stuff though.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually a good way to try to show the listeners. I'm sure a lot of the ones that are probably into this stuff may see it themselves, but I think other people, a little bit more the conspiracy-minded people, you'll see how you're getting played.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great way of playing it. Yeah, definitely. And it is kind of a played because it kind of all goes along with the same thing that's going on. If you open up your X account and it's just layered with government officials talking about how aliens are actually demons and either angels in the air and they're these spherical orbs. And you better watch out because pretty soon disclosure is coming, and it's not going to come, say, from Oliver Stone, but another great counterpart, Steven Spielberg, and his Age of Disclosure. Fascinating enough,
I do think with this stuff that you're mentioning about them, like the aliens or demons, in the way that I think the right kind of pimps out Christianity, and J.D. Vance said that he thought that aliens are demons. And from how I've seen some people, I guess, in the political area and podcasting especially, and I don't say this to alarm people because I don't want people to get like they are acting. But I do feel that they're trying to radicalize Christians right now.
Oh, yeah. No,
everything is dicks and demons, satanic and evil, and everybody, you're horrible, you must go.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting dangerous. And if that happens, I'll tell you right now, we will be pushed into a dark ages.
Yo, for sure.
We will become dumb as fuck if we allow that to happen. We'll become scared parrots.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's a really important thing to get at is that in this age of disclosure, the age of information, the age of artificial intelligence, fear is the mind killer, as the Litany of Fear states in Dune. And it's more important now than ever to find a practice, find a way of involving yourself and realizing how to participate and navigate the world instead of being a passive observer. And I think that's more important than ever because once you can participate with the world, you have the ability to then actually be have your own agency instead of just being a possessed pawn, so to speak, by influence, outside influence. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I think not to get into too much, but even just to put this out there in case I happen to touch on this topic again. Yeah. I don't have a problem with Christianity or the Bible at all. Yeah. But I think the way, if you look at the history and you see how it started, I don't. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But I think where it's gone now, it's getting a little, it's going to be almost like spiritual censorship.
Oh, right.
We're never going to be able to think outside of a box. And that's why I'm saying we'll go into a dark ages and be dumb because we will be told you're not allowed to think or view anything any different than this or you're bad. There's been even Christian mystics who were burnt at a stake by their own people.
Yeah, let's go down a list of like Giordano Bruno being one of the biggest one, right?
Yep.
As like this man who's like, hey guys, maybe these things that we think are out there are actually these streaming balls of gas, but they also can have these levels of intelligence if we add the occult mystery to it. But at the same time, guys, maybe there's more planets than just us. And then it's like, string them up. Don't listen to that guy. We can't talk about that, because then how do we control our little demiurgic black iron prison with this master slave complex? You know what I mean? And it's like him, as well as many, many other people out there have been, Boethius being one of them with his Constellations of Philosophy, or Agrippa and his 3 books of occult philosophy. Like, he came out with those books, and then he came out with another book right after that was denouncing all of the magic he talked about in those.
Because at that point he was worried about getting killed or having problems. Yeah, he literally did that to cover his ass because they started getting radical.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. So before we get into watching this video, Nick, tell them where they can find you and all the things you're working on right now.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. The Occult Rejects. It's on YouTube, Rumble, it's old stuff on BitChute, all major podcast hosts. Right now, I am working on the Mechanics of Magic series still. I am working on, it should be coming out soon. I'm going to try to drop it in rotation and extra shows because it's going to be a long series, and I would never expect people to listen to 18, because I think it's going to end up turning out to 18-part series that's literally going to cover the Catholic Christian churches as ritual technology. And I have a pretty good case to show that I think that if you were to even walk into one of these churches, or some of them, and don't even really technically even understand the belief, the shit in there is already going to put you into a certain state.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
and again, it can be done in a positive way, or it can be used to manipulate.
Yeah.
We should both keep that in mind. Keep both of those in mind.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I'm glad you're doing that kind of work, because the idea, it goes back to exactly kind of how we're opening this up with this demons and angels types of motifs, is that churches have been, like back in the day, real great churches who, as much as we always want to lift certain kind of people up and claim that they are the ones in control of things, right? Like this whole idea, a myth of the Freemasons that are satanic and in control of all things. Fascinating enough, that's coming from these the initial Masonic builders of a lot of the sacred architecture that we have today, that is beautiful and helps people when they go into it call upon a higher force to help straighten their life out with some kind of morals and ethics. Dogma, that's not bad. Dogma is not a bad thing. It kind of aligns our life. But the idea is that what is the priest at the head of the pulpit doing? Is this a kind of individual who is a vessel for divine knowledge and somebody who wants to speak truth to power to his flock? Is he taking on the actual allegorical and symbolic understanding of the teachings of, say, Christ or any of the Abrahamic traditions? Or is he building soldiers for a spiritual jihad that then is like trying to do exactly what we're talking about, the negative side of the Abrahamic traditions, which is the institution that is trying to basically inquisitorily kill off any idea that doesn't follow suit to the way they interpret their sacred scripture, right?
I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah, and that shit's wild, because if it goes down to how one person could be helping speak truth to power, like this Tucker Carlson, for instance, who also then is coming out here and blaspheming against a whole group of individuals who are actually doing the great work, and that is the magi, philosophers, and occultists, esotericists, who are out here trying to basically live a good life, and not only do that, but they're trying to, make good men and women better with their practices.
Yo, you nailed it, man.
Right? And so it's like, that's such an important thing, is that a lot of these practices doing just that. There are obviously, your idiots and morons out there who are more ego driven and wanting to add on identifiers with their spiritual and material practices. But I think that's not everybody. And that's the same way with the fundamentalist Abrahamic traditions, where they add their orthodox brodom on, and they're like spewing and projecting out this peacock relationship with Christ or whatever it is, and instead of being a vessel for like compassion and change, they become a vessel for an egregore that is a really negative one that has caused many wars throughout history, right? Isn't it? I think it's just such a fascinating thing. And so it goes back to, with the sacred architecture, is that this architecture is beautiful, and we need to know what is going on, just like why we need to talk about the signs and the symbols and the motifs and the mythologies of these things, because without understanding these things, we become, we basically become an Agent Smith.
Oh,
That's then the idea.
That's what I was like saying. Like, that's where I think if they could push the Christians radicalized to where they want them to be, they'll turn into Agent Smiths.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. They'll
just go around hunting everybody they think is satanic, demonic, or a pervert.
Yep. And little do they know, they're hunting their own brethren and sisters, the sorors and freighters of this world, as in us who are trying to become magi, not even become magi, but live in a worldview of harmony. The three pillars of things, as we're going to talk about with Masonry, is that it's strength, beauty, and wisdom. Very Platonic in its right, is that like those are the three pillars of living a virtuous life, of having, You know what
I think it is sometimes with the ones that are always rah a lot. I'm going to keep it real. I think they want to remove temptation because they know they're interested in the same shit. And if there's less people around who are like that, they don't have the temptation to act like that. I think a lot of things is actually either fear or there's actually some lack of, it's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like they almost wish they could be that person, but they don't have the balls to do it. So then they shit on them.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
I don't know how to say it the right way, but
no, I completely agree. And everyone out there, thank you for joining Nick and I, MagusintheMedia and the Occult Rejects. A great integration, a great collaboration. I wouldn't be here. I'd be here, but not as doing it as great without the great Cardinal Head himself. So as always, I appreciate you, Nick. And then everyone who's hanging out, thanks, Jugs. It's nice to see you, Howard, my boy Casey, Eris Nocturne, and everybody else listening for this fine evening. Who we got here? Conjure Up, nice to see you today. And get that dictionary out because we're fucking going deep. That's what, get your chatty out and ChatGPT, your Geminis. It's going to be a great show. And again, I think it's really important. It's something that when I spoke about with Scarlet Imprints a few months ago, is that we are, and the thing is, when it comes to those of us who choose to dabble in the dark, is what the fundamentalists think we're doing, is same as the materialists, but that's not truly. It's about trying to walk ourselves out of the cave and integrate the light, integrate the forms, integrate the highest version of ourselves while doing it, while living the embodied experience. Instead of living for heaven after, we're living for heaven here now. And I think that's a really important differentiation, because technically our battle isn't with the Abrahamic traditions. It's not with the scientific materialists. Technically, it's with the ideology.
Yo, that was even a lot of shit with the Gnostics. If you start looking about why they got condemned, a lot of it was just the way that they viewed now.
Yeah.
That was a problem.
Yeah. I completely agree. The idea,
like you're even saying, like, we're worried about heaven now, not afterwards.
Not afterwards. No. It's about making this planet, in realizing that it is its own intelligence, and we live in a plasmic, electric, living, organic universe, and that we want to make sure we live the best life for now, instead of being either this the oligarchic parasitic class who are trying to rule over us, thinking that they are connected to some bloodline, divine right of king's elite that may stem past the fucking Sumerian time frame back to the Anunnaki of some maybe past civilization. That if we realize these types of things, that maybe our birthright is to be fully human, which means that we are more powerful than we could ever imagine, then the idea is we can shed maybe a little bit of our own individual ego, so that we can all live in some kind of harmony, which is what the early pre-Socratic and ancient philosophers were talking about, instead of what ended up happening with after Aristotle with Christian thinkers, is that all of a sudden they start fucking changing everything to be seen through a certain model and lens that adheres to the dogma that they're trying to build up and integrate with the empire, which is the Roman Empire in that time frame. You know what I mean? And so it's like you get this Roman Empire with Christianity and the Abrahamic traditions, because it's not just Christianity, it's all three that are now trying to basically squeeze this planet for all its resources and all its worth, trying to make up for something that's going to happen in the future.
You know what I did even notice, and it's really like when I look at it, I'm like, God damn, because I'm so interested in both, and I can see how both can connect. But again, a lot of the Platonists, I guess, maybe just didn't like the way that they did it. But there's a lot of people who were pushing Platonism into Christianity that was also the ones with the big mouths against Gnosticism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Aquinas wasn't a fan of Gnostics either, who was, Neoplatonic right after Plato was working. Yep. So, like, you see that, and it's just, like, so weird. It was, like, almost like, yo, was there, like, some kind of a cult, like, not war, but, like, nah, man, we want to run this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, Plato is so deep in the occult. I mean, if it's embedded in Christianity, I hate to tell you, it's, it's not what you think it is. Yeah,
and it's not that Platonism was created by Christianity. It's that Christianity and these traditions were using Platonic thinking and the amalgamation of these things. And then even your Judaism, your Judaic religion, the Abrahamic, Abraham was from fucking Ur. This man was a stellar. It was the stellar cults. So they were worshiping the stars, and Abraham got kicked out of his own tradition because he was a fucking asshole. He was Abram. And so he had to go somewhere else. And so all I'm saying is, if we need to look at the people who are starting these things and kind of like realize like how much our history can be fabricated through thousands of years.
You know what that sounds? It sounds like somebody who started a cult and it failed and they tried to rebrand themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know a lot of people are going to hate this, but it's very L. Ron Hubbard, very Scientology from the basic frameworks of the Golden Dawn. If there would be no Scientology, if there wasn't a Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and I think that needs to be talked about more. Ooh. So maybe that's a future episode, Nick, that we do on the Rejects, because I think that's really important that most people don't know that. How to design a cult in a few days is L. Ron Hubbard. Quickly, L. Ron Hubbard was good friends with Jack Parson. Jack Parson was the head of the OTO in those time frames, who was trying to basically, Aleister Crowley was like, hey, I need to pass on, I need a successor in the OTO. I can't do it. I have my health. I'm trying to make the Thoth deck and all these other crazy things. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, but I got this great guy here. He's a science fiction author. Dianetics, have you ever heard of it? Crowley's like, I don't know. You don't do that. And then
he told Parsons, he warned Parsons that L. Ron Hubbard was a fucking scam artist.
Oh yeah, super fucking scam artist.
You know what's really interesting? I don't want to get too off topic, but you brought this up, and I was like, yo, just thinking now, I even have something perfect to add to that, because there's been this cult for like the last 3 years I've wanted to cover, and I just never did it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want people to look into it. But they're down in Brazil, and they're like lawmen, like all their shit. I'm telling you right now, if I was to send you the stuff, you'd be like, yo, that is so Golden Dawn and OTO.
Really?
Just the colors and the way it looks. And then there was a time when I think National Geographic actually did like an article on this thing, because it's a UFO cult too, and they're just like taking pictures, and like, I guess as an occultist, you want to like look at everything.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's like this big doorway that's open. And then there's like, these two Egyptian pillars, I think, on the side. And then inside, it looks like there's this big circular cushion with like a drape hanging over it. Just like something decoration inside the room. And I just happened to be looking at it, and I'm like, yo, looks like there might be something in there. So I zoomed it open and like took a screenshot and looked at it. There's a motherfucker with an Astrum Argentum fucking robe inside there.
No way.
Where the OTO and the Golden Dawn meet, technically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now we really know who's running this fucking cult.
That's crazy. I mean, so everyone knows is like the Golden Dawn. Aleister Crowley was part of the Golden Dawn with McGregor Mathers and that whole crew.
Yeah,
and then
AA and a lot of some Golden Dawn people will not suggest it, but there's Golden Dawn orders that do suggest the AA.
Oh yeah, and I suggest the AA. I mean, especially if you know what you're looking for, I do highly recommend David Shoemaker and his Temple of the Silver Star. However, again, I'm Ronin, bro, and I'm all about, figuring out yourself. The idea being you can pick up all the books, read the Equinox of the Gods by Crowley, pick up his AA stuff, and kind of start going through it yourself. Because I think it has such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful path working for the individual who's trying to truly understand the world. You know what I mean?
Depending on whose lineage or order you're in, I would, like you're saying, David Shoemaker, I think that'd be a solid choice if anybody was to get involved in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's actually a serious, like no games. Like you're actually going to do this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's cool about his stuff is I've looked it up with the Silver Star is they even are like, you don't have to be here. Every once in a while, you may have to come here for a ritual, but we can do it via phone. And, because the idea is you have your journal, you go through your journal, you're doing this working. And just like what I do with my own students is like with my private students for martial arts stuff, it's like we can meet I meet with you every week. We're going through it. But the only way you're going to get something from this truly is if every day you do it at home as much as you can. If you can train martial arts for at least an hour a day, half hour, whatever it is, because every time you come back to me now, we can build off of that instead of continually having to go and rework everything over and over once a week. So that's just an easy way to like kind of understand how even through our spiritual practices, our magical practices and mystical practices, because what we're seeking after, and to hit up the idea about the sacred architecture, is what we're all trying to seek after is gnosis. And that's what the institutionalized exoteric church has an issue with, is direct experience of God, of knowledge. That is the hatred for the Gnostics.
Yeah.
Let alone the whole materiality being evil, the demiurge, Yahweh or Jehovah being the demiurge, being this evil creator, which, if you read the Old Testaments, seems pretty tyrannical myself. You know what I mean? It's like, how can you read that without thinking?
I mean, the church defined itself just to tell Gnostics they were wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, no, seriously. I mean, there were certain things that actually became a thing because they wanted to say that's wrong.
Yeah, that's so true. That's funny. That's funny. Yes, because if you're, and it goes back to even what the inverted dark republic I always talk about with Plato's Republic, which is him trying to teach you how to philosophize and how to harmonize the soul, with justice being the highest of all virtues, besides it reflecting the good, is that what happens with the person, the individual person in its state or nation, is reflected upon the state, and vice versa. So if you have sick individuals who live within the country, then you're going to have a sick state. If you have a sick state that's corrupt and doing all these dangerous and stupid things, you're going to have sick people, as we can see in our day and age. And that's because they don't want you to know the truth about anything. Because if you know the truth about your history, about what's going on with the world, what it means to interact with the highest of all beings, whatever that is, or what even alien disclosure, Epstein, what's in our food, what do we spray in the air?
The technology we're using.
That's the best way of putting it. What is this technology that we're using? And I just think true gnosis is exactly what we're looking for, and that's just direct experience of reality, which is why I'm always frameworking it through the phenomenological experience, which is which we're going to try to do is we're trying to bracket off our judgments of things and truly experience the world as itself, and ask real questions, which isn't like, what is reality? But to know that we're already here. And so we are already being in the world. And so what we have to truly ask is, what does it mean? What is world? What is being? Instead of getting caught up in all these traps about, oh, that experience is a demonic experience, or that is satanic, or all these little things. Freemasons are evil and bad. We can get caught up as what they call in martial arts, chasing hands. But if you get caught up chasing hands, all of a sudden you're going to get hit because the hands can lie.
That's true.
And so what we're going to start off right here so we can get it done, because this is a pretty long video, is This is a video that Tucker Carlson did on his show just a few days ago with Sean Stone, where supposedly Sean Stone is an ex-Mason, and he's going to talk about his experience with Masonry, possessed, the demonic possession, and the government, let alone, and what they're experiencing with these kinds of occulted world that we're all living in as occult has gone mainstream. If you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, not only to Magus and the Media, but after it's done, head over to the Occult Rejects, as we're trying to slay one archon at a time. And this is where we're at. I know there's a lot of hatred out there in this left versus right dichotomy, but it's time to not fall for the Hegelian dialectic and truly to rise up and to directly listen to these things for ourselves, so we can actually parse through all the nonsense, see that there's actually truth in a little things that they're saying, because Tucker Carlson is coming out with some pretty brilliant conversations over the last year or two, as he himself is waking up to the truth of the world. Yes, he still does things where he talks about the occult as this negative satanic thing, not understanding that he's still stuck in an Abrahamic tradition framework. However, his last conversation that Kaiba and I talked about was he did one with Kevin O'Leary talking about AI data centers. And so that's where we need to put away our prejudices of bow tie liberal, bow tie fucking conservative Tucker Carlson, who is annoying as fuck, pushing weapons of mass destruction in 9/11 as not being the false flag psyop that it was, and then slowly understanding that maybe his father, and yes, his father was a CIA agent, but did he know, and doesn't he know, and can he know? Which is all nonsense questions, but we have to actually hear what he's saying. So in that Kevin O'Leary interview, it was fascinating and it was brilliant, because he's actually asking real questions. And how bad are these AI data centers when somebody like the billionaire Kevin O'Leary, Meta, Amazon, and Palantir are slowly trying to build a surveillance state? And so we need to, again, put our prejudices aside. Tucker Carlson's helping that, helping question our government, who is coattailing and slobbing on the nobbin of that Israeli forces, of the government that's putting us into these war in the Middle East. But then Tucker Carlson does things like this, where he brings on Sean fucking Stone, Oliver Stone's son, which then supposedly I just, where is it? Doing it live. Thank you, SMS. Just joined in. Is that Sean Stone in the thumbnail? Does everyone know his real last name is Silverstein? Silver Cup of Benjamin. Not going to fact check it. Sounds right. I believe you. And so it's just fascinating. And so Nick and I are going to start this conversation, listen to this, and we're going to stop here and there just so we can kind of set the record straight. Both of us are practicing magicians, mystics, philosophers, and scholars here, and just regular everyday Joes trying to understand the world. And so you ready for this one, Nick?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's get it started. Let's start with the beginning. Here we go. We're doing it live.
Sean, thanks for doing this.
There we go.
It dawned on me the other day, years after it dawned on you, that there are no secular leaders of anything, and that people pose as, science-based and non-religious, but everyone who has power in the world is religious. I have noticed they just have different religions, and you've been on this for a very...
I already want to stop that. That statement itself is a farce. There's a large group of people that have infiltrated the Masons, as well as many other groups, and they call themselves the Bavarian Illuminati. And that Bavarian Illuminati, created by Adam Weishaupt in the 1700s, they were a bunch of scientific materialists, Enlightenment thinkers who believed in nothing, Zabowski. And as they were believing in nothing, trying to move our world through this scientific Enlightenment period, they infiltrated a bunch of actually, religious or mystical traditions to try to push their agenda on these things. I also think the Zabatin Frankists are also those who believe in nothing, even though they they're believe in Judaism and Jewish mysticism, or then infiltrate Islam and infiltrate Christianity. And so already high-powered people, not all of them are religious thinkers, right?
No. I would even say, when it comes to this stuff, like you would even get somebody like, all right, if somebody who's maybe more actually into the Kabbalah or Kabbalist, they'll just say they're Jewish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like even like me and you know plenty of people, and I'm not, it just is what it is, and I'm not using them purposely as an example, but there's a lot of people in the Golden Dawn that would say they're Christian.
Yes.
So like you could have people that are maybe have not a religion but a belief, and they're just using a religious, way to categorize it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. As models to experience reality.
Yeah, or just to tell people what they are, because it's
a lot easier than trying to describe whatever mysticism and magic are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very long time. So let's just start as big as we can. What's the purpose of communing with the supernatural for leaders? Why do leaders do it?
I think there was maybe this is a quote or someone said this to me. There are non-powerful people who are Freemasons, but there are no powerful people who are not Freemasons.
And I'm going to stop right there because that was one of the big ones I heard beforehand. And that's also not true. Actually, a large portion of our presidents weren't Freemasons. A lot of them were Skull and Bones out of Yale or Bohemian Grove, or a lot of these things. And so this is another straw man to kind of build up a boogeyman of Masons. Masonry is one of those things which is fascinating. They state that they're trying to make good men better. And I actually believe that, especially because of you have your hometown lodge of a bunch of just old men or men trying to like meet other men. And then they have, their rituals and the lodge time that they go into. But the idea is like Masonry is declining at a drastic rate, and esoteric Masonry is declining even faster than that. And so it's hard enough to get people to come to lodge meetings, let alone to initiate people, let alone to even join, especially because most of the time they're just a bunch of dudes having coffee. And so, fascinating.
No, I know. I even think, just my opinion, like I'm also one of the people who are just like, you can't blame the Jews for everything either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's just multiple ideas of thought, orders, or whatever that have their own idea of what they are trying to accomplish. And some of them might align, some of them might go against each other. But I think it's a hodgepodge of like people trying to control the world. Yeah, there might be some higher up that are controlling more. But I don't think it's exactly specific to like one order, explain it. But
no, you're completely right. And conclusive evidence only confirms 14 U.S. presidents have been Freemasons. And so we're just going to debunk that right away. Like out of all the presidents, we've had 47, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 47 with Trump or whatever it is. And so 14 of them, like that means and we already know that the president isn't the president. The president isn't the president, Samson. You know that. He doesn't control dick. And so it's a lot of, we have to realize who is in control. It's not even the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, which they control a lot. It's Oracle and Palantir. But really we need to go down to the people who we don't know names of. These families that have bloodlines that move through not only just hundreds of years, but thousands of years playing this long game, and that have the actual history of where we come from. And so really important point.
Freemasons.
If you think about the nature of an initiatory group that's been around in its current form for a few hundred years, since the 1700s, right, in the UK, and likewise in France, but they say its origin, or they believe that its origin precedes it to the Knights Templar, right? Who were a very powerful order, as we know. From my understanding of the Templars, it's not the idea of like 9 knights showing up in the Middle East during the Crusades, right, to guard the roads, right? It was really more about excavating under the Temple of Solomon.
Okay, so this is so fascinating how fast they move with this. Is like he just said Freemasons, origin, Knights Templar, excavating underneath Jerusalem, excavating underneath the Solomon's temple. So let's hit with that one. Freemasonry has a metaphorical and symbolic connection to the Knights Templar. In the York Rite or in the Scottish Rite, I can't remember which one, but there is a Scottish Rite. There is a Knights Templar degree, of course. And so you get this gentleman right now, what's his name, going around talking about the connection between the Knights Templar and the Freemasons. I don't remember what his name is. Timothy Hogan. I've reached out to him.
I met him. No, I met him and Scott Walter at Cosmic Summit 2025. I mean, I got books from them. I spoke to them, shook their hands. They both said they'd come on the podcast. Neither one of them.
No, okay, yeah. Timothy,
I was gonna bring them up. So when you're done, just let me. I want to bring up. They actually said some wild shit at that event.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, nice. And so the idea being that that's not true. So it's a symbolic connection, ritualistic connection, but not an actual connection to the Knights Templar. There's no actual proof that Masonry is one string line from the Knights Templar towards the Masonry that we have today. And so that is one of the problems of mistaking causation for correlation. There's definitely a correlation between them because of the rites and the degrees and the initiations that they go through symbolically, mythologically, and metaphorically, but not facticity or historicity, not factually a connection to them. And then the idea that the Knights Templar, they were excavating and going around the known world at that time, from the Middle East to the Hellenistic world, right? The Hellenism had already been started to become destroyed at that time frame, but the Mediterranean, Northern Africa, all around Rome and Europe. So they were, because they were gathering up all the secret traditions and going to war with these places, and upon doing so, realizing that the Vatican at that time frame, the Roman Catholic Church, actually was doing something maybe not so great. And so they started learning the mysteries and the traditions, and they started waking up and finding true gnosis. And then there has been a massive propaganda to dispel the Knights Templar into being goat Baphomet worshipping heathens, which it wasn't true whatsoever, because as we understand, Baphomet was a sigil / symbol of the highest of all the great work, an amalgamation, and something that when meditated upon, you can see that how that is the divine Sophia coming forth to us. And so just nice to dispel that. Nick, what do you got?
Well, one thing, when you go with the Baphomet, just to iterate on, there's at least one, but I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 other versions kind of that before Elvis Levi's.
Yes, definitely.
So, people should also understand, like, maybe that one's just an edgier, what's that word I'm looking for? I guess edgy or gothy way to try to put that concept. You know what I'm saying? Giving it some edge there, some darkness.
Yeah.
But with the Knights Templar, it was really interesting. First off, when I was at the Cosmic Summit, I didn't realize how many people there were actually Knights Templar. And it's kind of interesting. They had booths set up, and when I was there, I was supposed to be like filming and helping out this guy who had a booth, and he did something on there was a certain mountain. I already forgot the mountain name. It was kind of like something that was like an idea being covered by Randall Carlson at this event. Mm-hmm. So he had a booth, and then like I happened to realize that like where we had our booths, then against like a different wall a little bit farther over was just like a line of other people. And it was Scott Walter, Billy Carlson, some Indian guy, I forgot his name, Timothy Hogan. Then there was like a Knights Templar itself booth with Timothy Hogan. And then it was like I think 1 or 2 other people. I can't remember. Yeah, did I mention Billy Carlson too? Yeah, he was there. They were all Knights Templar, and that's why they were together.
Wow. Even Billy Carson? Of course he was.
Even, this is funny, when I was talking to them at the table, I shit you not, the lady there was trying to push me to like join their school and their shit.
And is that separate than the Masons, or are they the Knights Templar degree in Masonry?
They have like their own shit that they try to pimp out like on the side, but like when I saw Scott Walter and he got into the Templars, he was saying it is in our order of the Freemasons.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So she was trying to pitch it to me, and I was like, listen, I said I was already in the OTO, already went like in order, so I left.
Yeah.
Then she's like, oh well, even Jay Anderson's in it. yo, you're just throwing other motherfuckers under the bus now. And this is the kid that's presenting. This is the kid that's presenting the shit underneath the fucking pyramids.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So now you're so wondering, like, yo, who's all involved in this little club right here?
Yeah,
Like, are the Templar? Because why I'm even wondering, like, is the Templars involved somehow with that shit underneath the pyramid? Is because where I'm going with this next. Timothy Hogan and Scott Walter did like a 3-hour presentation, and Timothy Hogan basically covered Gnosticism. Like that was his whole thing. And then Scott Walter went into like archaeological shit and ciphers and stuff. And they made this claim that they broke some cipher and that by 2026, which is now 2027, they are going to be coming out and announcing that they have found one of 8 arks, Jesus's bones, Mary Magdalene's bones, and a baby's bones.
that sounds Dan Brown. I'm in.
Yeah, they said
That's amazing. I hope so. I mean, these are things that I really think, the young teenage Brandon was like, oh my, when Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code and this shit comes out, we're like, oh my God, please, the Merovingian line, all the different sacred coding and occult symbols in all of our art and things like that. This has got to truly lead to something, the mystery, right?
Well, that will rock religion.
It would rock. It would. And I will state, I like Scott Walter's work. Timothy Hogan seems a little strange. He seems a little weird, but Scott Walter, actually, he comes around my area, actually, interesting enough. And so I am thinking, I've always actually wanted to join the Masons. And so, just to put it out there, if there is any organization I ever joined, that would be the only one. Especially because of the idea of trying to make good men better. And this idea of how much actual mysticism and esotericism is involved, and how much charity that the Masons actually do give to the world anonymously, instead of being one of these big charity organizations that are, just want name only. It doesn't matter about the people that they're hurting. And I also want to state how interesting it is throughout the years, hundreds of years of Masonry being around, how easy. We also must remember that people can lure other people. You can't. The Masons don't ask people to join. You ask them, and then they put you through a period and to see if you're actually worthy. And then the idea from there is that there have been a lot of, as the CIA and 3-lettered agencies do, and wherever they stem from, they infiltrate groups so that they can cause cells to offshoot. And they take these individuals who either have money or other powers or things like that. They take them outside of Masonry, and then they formulate their own little groups. And so, I think that's a really important thing to know. Like Pei Due was a group in Italy and Sicily that was integrated with the mafia in that time frame, integrated with the Vatican at that time frame. Even though the Vatican goes around stating that Freemasonry is heretical, yet the Jesuits and the mafia and this, and the Pei Due, this offshoot Masonry group, seem to be in high control because the Vatican Bank is also really huge with the Bank of International Settlements and all integrated. And I can only imagine then the military-industrial complex and DARPA and all these things are integrated with it too. And so all I'm saying is we can't paint big swatches of like Masonry bad. It's like, no, Masonry actually good, and it holds keys to our Western esoteric traditions. And there are a lot of good men that I've interviewed, that you've interviewed, who are Masons. And and so these initiations are important. It's just, let's not lose the map for the territory when we're doing these things. Is that individuals and humans are imperfect, and that means that we become corrupted if we don't truly do the practices. And most Masons aren't mystics. So,
you know what? That's interesting that you said that, because I've even said before, I think it was on somebody else's show, and I was trying to make a point, and I was kind of insinuating somebody else. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
But I've even said before, I said, listen to some of the people that claim to be Masons over in the conspiracy community and see what they're talking about and what they're selling. I said, and then come look at the Masons on my show that are occultists and see what the fuck they're talking about and how they present themselves. Yeah. Totally fucking different.
Yeah, it's true.
One's actually trying to teach you some sort of shit with spirituality, and the other one's trying to sell you degeneracy.
Right.
Like, it's literally night and day. And I was like, do you see the difference between the piece of shit ones and the good ones now?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think
that one to like literally like bring you to have an experience with God, and another one's trying to like sell you some sort of sexual shit, like in a weird way.
Oh yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's strange. We live in strange times, sir. We live in strange times. All right, let's back to it.
Yes.
That was, what they were interested were the
They want to
ancient
get to
texts.
the well of souls.
The Well of Souls, the ancient texts, the things that were, written into like grimoires and hidden, incantations, things that you could basically call upon the spiritual realm, because that's the lore of King Solomon. King Solomon, as we remember from the Bible, he had wisdom and he was a powerful ruler over what was then Israel, but
Richest man in the world.
yeah, well, he had the gold, but why did he have the power? Was because he could call upon what they call genies, and he could command them with his ring, the Ring of Solomon, the Ring of Power. And that's what so the real lore of like Masonry, right, was that he had this builder, Hiram Abiff, who could, who architected the temple, the Temple of Solomon, but they had jinn that they called upon to actually do the work and to build it. Now that's all metaphor.
And what are jinn?
Genies, what we would call genies in,
Yes.
in Aladdin's lamp. They
Yes.
are the beings. And so I went to Iran. The first time was curiosity, but I went to go meet with some of these guys that communicate to them, to the other side. And I would talk to them about, what's going on in the world. And they would say, yeah, I mean, the jinn in Islamic lore is very similar to like angels and demons, or the watchers in the book of Enoch, right?
Yes.
Who are not, they're both dark and light. Some serve God, some serve the dark side. And
again, we're moving really fast through things, right? Now we've got the Temple of Solomon. We got King Solomon being somebody who then has the ability to control the jinn, or the Goetia, right? The lesser keys and the greater keys of Solomon that Crowley and Mathers then have wrote from these. Which is actually just an amalgamation of Renaissance grimoires.
Yeah.
And from the Islamic magical traditions, Judaic traditions, and Christian
people know
traditions.
that too much, that some of that stuff is literally pulled from multiple sources.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do find it interesting how it's like he did go from somewhat, I'm not saying that was like any shocking history, but like I thought that was somewhat of a like decent, like he was kind of maybe putting some truth there.
Oh yeah.
To about it, and then just straightforward jumped into the whole demonic shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just like like you said, it's like all of a sudden we dropped that, and now we're gonna fast forward into the fantasy bullshit.
It's crazy because it's like how quickly they ran through. It's all metaphor and symbolic. It's like, no, that's important.
Talk about it though.
Yeah, it's like, and the idea of being like, how important it is to know, and something that Peter Mark Adams is continually talking about is like when you take on the magical worldview and understand that all of reality is in that. In David Beth interview I just dropped, David Beth, everyone go check it out after this. Brilliant man, brilliant book. I think one of the greatest books to come out in the esoteric world as of late. Is this idea that we live in, I don't like the term animism, but we live in a pan-daemonic world, and we're seeking this cosmic gnosis. And that means daemonic as in Daemonic, not demon, but daemonic, this daemonic relating to genius relating to, again, what he's talking about, jinn or genie, is this higher mind or lower mind. Like jinn can be good or bad, just like daemons can be good or bad. These trickster entities,
Higher selves, lower selves.
Higher selves, lower selves, these things that are symbolic narratives of a guiding conscious, which is, as Socrates talked about, his genius or his daemon was something that he was born with. And then, you could also deem it to being some kind of conscience, this objective moral structure and force that moves through us to help guide us upon our journey. And if you understand it also as the left brain talking to the right brain in the Julian James's kind of ways, that there wasn't the corpus callosum yet that united them. So we didn't know the difference between the creative forces of God and the logical structures of us trying to understand, is it me as an individual, or is it a higher force moving through us? Then we can kind of start to understand the frameworks we're working with something as vast of a topic as Solomon's temple, and who was Solomon, and what does it mean to build the temple?
I would even say, I know this can be, I guess, controversial a little bit in the magical community, but I do even still want to put in there how originally Crowley's opinion of the Goetia was that the shit is in your head.
Yeah.
He did think, and I could see how maybe it's not fully, maybe it's a little bit of both, but I do think like when they were saying even before, like allegorical, like, well, maybe explain that a little bit more, because like I do think like, again, like you could be taking the word temple. That could mean multiple things right there. It could be, you're actually be talking about your head again.
Yep.
Or could it actually be like, symbolism on multiple real layers? Like that idea was then put into physical reality as a symbolism for somebody here. But I just do think like people should also look at like sometimes like, oh, I wanted to add this in too. Like you're talking about the daemon. Who knows how it was done? Maybe it's allegorical too, but like even back in the day, I think Plotinus is a good example. People would expose their daemons to other people to show them if they're actually good or bad.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
If they were actually intelligent or if they were being kind of controlled by something negative.
Yeah.
Plotinus showed that he was like his holy guardian angel, almost kind of something like that, is like kind of what showed up in representation, I guess, to somebody that he was trying to prove that he was a gangster, I guess. And that's how he proved it. But it's just like, again, like could that just be even just showing where you're really at and what you're doing?
Yeah.
What your true self is.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the idea that you're always bringing up is the oracular, the vision, the eye, and how important that is that that's connected to the brain nervous system / connected to the operating system of the internal external. And I'm always trying to bridge that gap, is that we don't see the world as a subject perceiving an object. We view the world as as we're intending, our intentionality, intending and perceiving this thing. And so it's two completely different ways of viewing reality.
Yeah. When you start even like looking into like, even I just for myself, even do that Mechanics and Magic series, once you start seeing like just the relationship between your eyes, your brain, your skin, I mean, with pressure and your ears and all your senses and your nervous system, it is like such a wild, insane relationship we have going on with the way we decode and decide what our reality is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And
it's
so,
insane.
Yeah, and to get back to the Solomon's Temple, and something that Lon Milo Duquette came out with that book, Tarot Architecture, becoming your own builder of your own temple, the master builder of your temple. That's what the story that the Masons are going through with the killing and slaying of Hiram Abiff by his 3 lowest desires, or his 3 workmen. And when you're rebuilding the temple, it's trying to rebuild basically the spiritual vessel and apparatus of you being the master who makes the grass green, you becoming the highest level of human that you can be, not transcending humanity, but truly being the best person you can be by alchemizing your lowest 3, your lowest desires, that animal desire of yourself. So instead of mistaking the map for the territory, like we are fighting current wars in the Middle East about, because people are trying to build the 3rd temple, because of some people think the same people that were here thousands of years ago are the same lineage to today, it is utter fucking nonsense, because we are all humans and this entire planet is our birthright and we are stewards to it. And so if you can get your temple in order, because of you're trying to bring the light and integrate it with everything else, then you can thus control all the elements of nature. And as he was talking about with Solomon being able to control the jinn or the Goetia or the howling is related to the Kliploth of the Tree of Life, then you're being able to control the lowest desires of humanity.
Yes.
And so it's fucking wild that's like, I know that it's this rolls off my tongue, and you understand, and a lot of you understand out there, that's a hard concept, because of first you have to realize that you are a monster.
Yeah.
And that it's time to stop being a coward and realize the monster within, so you can put it at bay and not allow it to control you, thus not being possessed by it. Right?
Some real talk right there, for sure.
And I do want to comment on one of these comments here, and I don't like it. SMS, sometimes you do this thing where Masons/Luciferians worship the inversion. That's not what. No, I'm not saying that. Because what you're mistaking is whatever this Lucifer character is. That's why it's really important to read Peter Gray's book, Precepts and Praxis. It's really important because to know who Lucifer is to know that actually there was a mistranslation in Isaiah that Lucifer is like Ben Shal Halami or Haram or something. He's talking about the second like king of Babylon in that time frame. What's his name? Sargon the second. And so Lucifer was never actually put into the Bible as a Satan-like figure or a watcher, even though we have the watchers in the Bible. It was then John Milton who then helped corroborate this, and thus the Lucifer figure became a Promethean figure because of the dying of the king in Milton's time frame, and it got away from him because Milton was a Christian thinker. And so all of these people around them were like, no, look at Lucifer rising up against the tyrant god, very Gnostic. And upon rising up against the tyrant god, Lucifer being a mistranslation of the evening star, Lucifer means morning star, talking about Venus. And so now all of a sudden you get a bunch of inversions by the Abrahamic tradition trying to corrupt the feminine.
Yeah, at one point in the Bible, Jesus calls himself the morning star. So I mean, that's right there should screw it all up for you.
Also very interesting. Exactly.
At that point, if you want to go along with what you thought Lucifer was, well, who the fuck's who's who now?
Yeah, and then that's exactly it. And so, interesting enough, you get the right hand and the left hand, and God does use the idea of Lucifer also, as we can see, as kind of like a district attorney type character sitting on this one side testing people. And so I think it's really important to know that a lot of these things, we can deem it as, instead of Lucifer being this evil, dualistic, all evil thing that is then unified with whatever Satan is, which also just means adversary, light bringer and the adversary. Now we can start to try to understand how exoteric Abrahamic tradition thinkers are trying to do when they invert reality and try to make devils out of nothing.
You know what I also want to throw in here too, and it's just a kind of opinion of mine, but I think maybe you'll understand where I'm going with this too. Well, one, when you get a lot of angels always seem to be able to go back and forth between here and the other, the other higher realms. But normally, I feel in occultism, when there's a character or somebody who has that in their story, if you want to look at it in an occult sense, or like maybe like kind of turn it into like the hero's journey, you got to undo or maybe kind of reverse what caused that to get back where you're going. Like when a person has that in their story, I think it has the polarity, and it's a little bit more of actually trying to show you how to right your wrongs.
Oh yeah, I like that.
You know what I'm saying? Like the magician isn't looking at it as the fall; they're looking at it as the rise. Yeah.
No, I like that. And I think P.D. Newman put it in his theurgy book, which I actually really love that book. He talked about how Kabbalah, mysticism, tree of life, and these things, instead of, is kind of about reading Genesis backwards.
Yeah.
Going back into the garden and unifying with the divine.
Yeah. You got to go backwards in time almost.
Yeah. And so just like we always talk about the lightning bolt path that stems through Kether all the way down to 10, Malkuth, the kingdom, we have to talk about the Ein Sof Aur, that initial impulse that moves through all things. And then as magicians, what we're trying to do, or as what the myth of Solomon and his temple is trying to rebuild the temple, rebuild Malkuth with the rest of the spheres and paths, the 10 and the 22. Thus unifying the tree and slaying, so to speak, even though I love dragons and I don't believe in dinosaurs. We don't, here at MagusintheMedia, we don't condone dinosaur lore. We condone dragon lore. But the idea is being that we want to qualm the Edom, the lower cliplotic entities, and bring, like they talk about Lunariana Kabbalah, the shards up from the Kliploth and unify them back with the light itself, back with Kether and the Ein Sof Aur. So again, really important stuff to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that.
It's beautiful.
And so the idea of like the power of Solomon was to be able to have a relationship and mastery. And some people say that he actually got overwhelmed by the power, and that's why he fell. Right? He ended up with the love affair that sort of sank his rulership, because it's a very dangerous gambit once you start committing with that side.
It's a very dangerous gambit to start committing with your love affair, right? The feminine. So another inversion of the feminine right there. The Shekinah is a really important concept in Kabbalah, which is, again, you had Angel Miller on. We're talking about a supernatural woman in the male initiate. I'm interviewing him on Saturday. But that's a big thing, and how important, and what we see is without him even knowing, he's crucifying the feminine, as well as talking about how Solomon fell for his lower desires, which he did. And I think that's really important, because that is us. That is us succumbing to the lower desires and not using higher reason, which is then harmonizing everything and connecting us to the forms or to virtues.
Yo, if we were to go back like 20 or 30 years from now and actually look at the way the world is now compared to then, we'd even be like, yo, we're fucked. Like, even spiritually, religiously. Like, and it's like, yo, how did we tiptoe all this shit into like being okay when it wasn't back then?
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. If you really want to think about it, I think we're pretty spiritually fucking sick at this point.
Yeah, no, I do actually agree with that. It's because it's so chaotic.
It sounds so fucked up, but like,
yeah. But what's fascinating is
where we at that our parents like, oh, don't listen to that metal satanic music because it looks like X, Y, and Z. Yeah, well, unfortunately, they're kind of right in that sense. We're there.
Yeah, no, it's
and
true.
It wasn't even from the metal music; it was from the fucking TV and politics and all this other shit.
No, that's real.
If you actually listen to the metal music back in the day that had the satanic image, if you listen to what they said in their lyrics, they were telling you what the fuck was coming.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree.
You're almost conspiracy theorists if you listen to their shit. You're like, oh fuck, yo, Slayer and Megadeth, wars, vaccines, and religions are gonna fucking kill people and run this world.
Yeah,
isn't that wrong?
Yeah, not wrong. And then that is what we're here to do. Is we're here to slay those archons, because those are egregores that have taken mass amounts of control and taken the power away or stolen the people's loosh. And so what I find interesting is I was listening to Mark Stavish's Freemasonry book, which is fascinating and really good. And he's talking about how the idea of being within the Kali Yuga or the Dwarpa Yuga, the lowest of all ages that we're in, where enlightenment and the darkness pervade and spiritual sickness. However, there, as he talks about in there, that means there is a subset of individuals who can speed run through basically like levels of enlightenment or initiation in this world, who can come to realize the shadows on the wall and the matrix around us, the concentration camp, the simulation, and the panopticon that we're all in, to help then guide us through into the next age. And so I think that's something that we are seeing. Is, I'm not talking about myself, I'm just talking about there are people out there who are trying to help us all see the kind of facade that people like Sean Stone, a puppet and a mouthpiece for whatever people or his own lower desires, to come on Tucker Carlson like this man has only maybe reached 3 degrees of masonry. He's a master mason, maybe, but now he's an ex-mason. So you know what I mean? He hasn't gone through the Scottish Rite or the York Rite or any of these other rites to reach 32nd degree, 33 degrees, or any other degrees, which are all just offshoot games in the RPG game of masonry. Because technically, once you're a master mason, that's as high as it goes. And then everything else is a playing ground like this. You know what I mean? It's like, there's only this, and now you're a mason. It's not like, oh my God, now I run the world because I'm in the Scottish Rite. It's you get high. Those are esoteric degrees.
Yeah.
That's actually going inward instead of out.
Yes. I would even say that is a lot of the sometimes inner orders are really kind of actually going into a specific lane of study.
Yes. That's exactly it. Yeah, I think that's really important. And so, Sean Stone again, Oliver Stone or Silverstein, trying to push a message and trying to be, he's kind of peacocking to show his virtue, which shows that he doesn't really have any, maybe, or maybe some.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's bullshit.
But I believe all the initiatory paths, Freemasonry is just one of them, the most famous one, lead you to that realm, to that understanding that there's spiritual forces invisible to us that are working through people in this world.
Yep.
And just because someone is a so-called Christian doesn't mean they're serving God. And just because someone is a Muslim doesn't mean they're serving the devil.
Yep.
That it's
very important
across the entire planet, that there are forces of dark and light working through every religion, every people, even through our own lifetime, our own souls. At any point when you grow up in Hollywood or whatnot, you realize like it does seem that people can sell their souls. And
yeah, people can sell their souls. Yes, there are spiritual beings all around us. Go back to Peter Mark Adams, how he talks is that if we can view reality as these beings as like alive, that we will realize that not all Christians are good, not all Muslims are bad, and that people suck and people are great, and that we can interact intelligently in the world. Frater says, Sean Stone is shockingly ignorant. He talks about Azazel as an angel of death, calling him on the phone. A quick Google could have told him actual info Azazel from Leviticus and Enoch. I thank you, Frater. Completely agree. I think RCIA is more famous than Masonry as an initiatory path. Rosicrucian. Yeah, I would say so. No, I would completely agree with that. That's good.
And maybe not even be aware of it. Because to me, it's not Satanism is like, can be incantations, it can be blood sacrifices and rituals. It can also just be worship of the material realm.
Yeah.
Right? So when you get into that realm of like, oh, I want power, I want worldly power, I think that's the satanic path. They don't think of it as such, but materialism at its heart is worship of the earth, and that's why people talk about the earth.
Oh, yeah, nice. Fact-checked, Frater. Thank you. RCIA is a Roman Catholic rite of Christian initiation for adults. Thank you, Frater. See, Mags in the media, we can tell you when we're wrong. I don't know all the things, nor do I know some of these new acronyms. I'm
because it was associated with Frat RSC. I just assumed it was probably Rosicrucian.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I agree. It's the same way with like when Jin is throwing down all his Jin knowledge. A shout out to Threshold Saints, everyone out there, to the Grey Lodge and everyone. Make sure we help push them out there. Shouting out to right now, Eros. Make sure everyone out there, she's part of the Occult Rejects, she's part of the Grey Lodge, Threshold Saints, and all the like. Eros has got her own stuff. Make sure once we're done here, head over to Eros's YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and share. She is her own brilliant rite, a Platonist, if I may say that. Eros also loves astrology. So definitely shout out to Eros. Thank you for all
the Platonic priestess.
Dude, the Platonic priestess herself. And she's coming out with more content as of recently, which is great because
the interviews. Check out her interviews.
Yeah, she's interviewing people from the Grey Lodge and everything, and it's brilliant. And so we do love that. Jin is putting out an episode tomorrow night, I believe, with his Threshold Saints. That can be fact checked, as well as he's putting out all kinds of stuff with his Gonzo style radio show. But what I was saying is he's got all the lingo, and I'm always like, Jin, I have no idea what it means. I don't, and so it's always good to have those who understand acronyms and the new age / internet lingo. I think it's like Gen Z lingo, but whatever. Yeah, Platonic priestess. Frater says that more famous as an initiatory path in Masonry. Yeah. Who even is this dude? Howard. This guy is Sean Stone, the son of Oliver Stone, the famous director who did the JFK movie, as well as many, many others. He's saying some okay things, some true things, and a lot of nonsense. Yeah, Jin speaks tantric. Yes, Jin does. It's
like, it's kind of Lucifer's domain, right? Because if you start worshiping money and and yourself, your own ego, well, you've lost sight of the transcendent power of God.
And I'm going to say it again. Lucifer does not mean satanic, and this is a common misconception, and it's been a misconception not just from him. It's been a misconception, biblical scholars for a long time, and a lot of people, and sometimes it's best just, yes, to amalgamate them. I get it. But at the same time, Lucifer, light bringer, Promethea, fire bringer, Luciferian spirit is somebody who is trying to bring the light to the world, not in an inverted way, but to rise up against the demiurgic tyrant that we all see. We're living it in today. We have our own tyrants. You can call them the United States government. You can call them the World Economic Forum governments, or you can call them the egregore that is running them all. Whatever the name is, the names change, but the empire never ended and Rome never fell. And so I think it's really important to know that Lucifer, the Luciferian spirit, is not the satanic one or the adversary, nor is it technically what he's trying to say, but I get it.
There's no question about that. There's no question. And I think all of us experienced that in our own lives. But just to back to what you initially said about the Masons, so we're about 100 feet from a Masonic lodge. They're all over rural America. Yeah. They're kind of a vestige of the past. This is how I think of them. Bunch of elderly guys with ceremonial swords.
Yeah.
Telling stories.
I have one.
You have one. I have one right over there from that lodge.
Whoa. Did Tucker just tell us that he's a Mason?
That might have been the way to do it, yeah. Listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Even if it wasn't for some way of manipulation or getting him anywhere, just the type of person he is, I don't see why he would not even be in it.
All right. I completely agree.
Just even for the whole, if he really thinks, this is good men trying to be better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it just on a which is like what we were saying before, but just on the most basic levels, I can't see how this guy wouldn't be like a fucking face for that.
No, completely. And I think ceremonial swords are great. I got 2 swords right here. I use them for ceremony. I also use them for cutting shit, and I also use them for practice, right? And so it's fascinating. That was fascinating. I didn't know he slipped up like that. And
I didn't notice that when I watched it earlier. Because I was even thinking come on, Tucker, I'm pretty sure you're a Mason.
Yeah, and if he's not a Mason, he's a Knights of Columbus, or something. I can't remember if he's not Catholic. He just calls himself Christian. So I think he's non-denominational, if anything. And the idea of Masonry is that you just have to believe in a higher power. So you can be a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, a Buddhist, a Hindu. All that matters is you believe in a higher power, and that is very important.
I even think that's even part of one of the because I could be wrong, but I do think at some point they almost kind of not skip but condensed degrees or something like that. And I think one thing, one of the major things of one of them is even acknowledging that there's other religions and beliefs out there.
Yeah, it is. And the idea is that when you go into temple, you don't talk about religion or politics. And I think that's really important that most people don't know, is that it's not like they go in there you're not going in there and formulating how to commit the downfall of a government or religions. You're going in there to basically bring an individual through initiation of trying to make them better. And so they go through the different initiations that Hiram of Biff went through. And so one of the greatest books to read for it, and it's one of my very first live stream series I ever did, was The Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly P. Hall. That book has brought me to tears before in really hard times, for the power that it has had over my own life. And once I read that book, that's when I made the decision of I'm not now, but when I settle down, which I haven't finally settled down into a spot, I want to become a Mason just because of that Manly P. Hall book. And so Nick, have you ever read that book?
No.
I do highly recommend everyone out there. Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly P. Hall. It's a fantastic book.
Them as a threat or even a meaningful player in current events. But then I should say I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
I don't. So really at all. You joined the Masons. Why did you do that, and what was it like?
So it was a journey of initiation. I think that I was going through at that time, right out of college, because in my college years, I started getting deep into studying history, and even in the Procopius was writing the history of Justinian, right? The Roman emperor, Byzantine emperor. And he described him as a shape-shifting demon, basically, in that book, in the Secret History. And that was buried for a long time. And, you know, again, there's all types of histories that King James was it James's Bible, but he also wrote a demonology book, right? I mean, this was the way that the world was perceived and understood for centuries, as we know.
As a battleground between dark and light.
Yeah, I mean, as forces that were unseen. I mean, Socrates talked about his daemon, like what people call genius. But you know, they say like in the old world, there's a theory that when Homer is writing about the Iliad and about all these different gods having a play in human life, a lot of people believe that we were in communication more readily with beings, right, unseen beings. And it may have been a real factor in our consciousness back then. And then we, obviously we get to this place of the Enlightenment when all of that becomes relegated, and we say, oh, that's all hocus pocus and not real. We can only focus on the physical realm. But you can't understand how life begins through the physical realm alone. You can't understand how the universe is formed.
No.
Right? I mean, how does a Big Bang start? It just happens. Okay.
Spontaneous bang.
Time.
Give me one great miracle and I'll explain the rest, says Terence McKenna. That's both the Big Bang theory of the physicists and scientists, and also the fucking Genesis, the beginning of Genesis for the Christians. And so either way, it's fascinating.
I know a lot of people, I've had people kind of hugely disagree and almost shit on me for this opinion, but I even think Kabbalistically the Big Bang kind of fits in.
Oh, not even think. If anyone's shitting on you, they're a fucking moron. That is what we get with the negative. Yes. That's the negative of Ain. Ain is the nothingness, which isn't actually nothingness. That's the big debate.
Yeah.
It's like, well, obviously it's not nothing.
Full
it's
potential, actually.
Full potential of introverted nothingness. And then you get Ein Sof, which is then that initial that fucking before there is then the rest of things. And so that in the beginning, Bereshith, in the beginning was the word, the logos that moves through all things. So Zimzum, exactly. Thank you, Freighter. Yeah, fascinating, guys. We're not even that far into this, so we'll see if we get through the whole thing, because there's just so much going on right now, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for following along.
Travel. I mean, how does it happen? How does it actually begin? Exactly from what? And how does life begin? So I think a lot of the materialists actually, you could say, people say Darwin and whatnot, are essentially serving the dark side, because they're saying there's nothing outside the material realm. This is all that exists, and everything.
I agree. Darwin serving the dark side. Love that. Put that on a shirt.
Well, actually, all we're interfacing with.
Actually, Darwin stole anthropologist's theory by the name of Cunningham and wrote it as his own. Cunningham was actually living on the island and doing the actual research of evolutionary biology. And then fucking Darwin was the one who was kind of in the mainstream and stole it. Very similar to what Tesla and what's his name? Not Benjamin Franklin. Tesla and Edison. Edison stole all of Tesla's stuff, right?
Is our own minds,
yes,
our own perceptions. And so when they want us to a very simplified version of reality, spontaneous evolution, random changes, right? Take away anything spiritual. I think that serves the dark side in a sense, because it elevates our own egos. It makes us, we're the progenitors of this, and, we are the greatest thing in the universe. And we can get into that later, but that then serves a transhuman agenda that, it's all about perfecting ourselves through the physical plane of genetics.
I agree. That does actually that brings us through. And I think Darwin was one of the talking points for moving us into a transhumanist agenda where machine and humans merge, and our consciousness is then switched from one body to the next, which I find to be utter blasphemy.
Well, it helps with eugenics too.
Yeah, it does. It helps with eugenics massively, right? Oh, that's funny. Well, we don't laugh about eugenics here, but every once in a while, the aristocrat of MagusintheMedia is all like, well...
Right, genetic tampering and whatnot. And you try to basically take the spiritual origin impulse of God creating this universe out of the story, right? That's what the Enlightenment did in many ways. But you can't take it out because we instinctively, as souls that we are in human form, we have this curiosity and this desire to know, okay, where did I come from? Like, it can't, my soul didn't just spontaneously appear. How do I have consciousness? Where does consciousness originate from? Just from our brains? Well, I think we're understanding that our brains are more receivers, almost like, computers that can receive the internet that's around us, right?
Yep. I love that. And then that's exactly how I feel it is.
I feel like before, when he was like kind of talking about like things outside of us that are affecting us, I really feel like it's more of getting into this type of shit, really. Yeah. Due to just, I think, us multiplying and the way technology has gone, there's just so many ways I think that we're actually just really controlled and affected by outside stimulus.
Yeah.
That makes us end up reacting or doing the things we do or viewing the way we view the world.
No, I completely agree. And yes, Eros, Darwinist, transhuman Satanists are making the freaking frogs gay. Yes. Yes, they are.
It's the way that we function more in that way. And that's why people have near-death experiences or they have out-of-body experiences. And this is, the CIA does this kind of stuff, astral projection, and they can see things outside of their physical body that you can't say, well, your brain knew it. You have all kinds of cases and stories of this, people.
And it wasn't just CIA and what's his name doing all these workings, but it's magicians and occultists and mystics have been doing astral projection and remote viewing and out-of-body experiences, the mystical experience, for thousands and thousands of years. And so this isn't just a 3-letter agency thing.
People, who are literally on a hospital bed and they can perceive things in the next room. So consciousness transcends our brain, right? And that indicates, again, a spiritual reality that a lot of mainstream science wants us to ignore. But I was like looking at history and saying, no, we've always had this impulse to see a spiritual reality, or what Plato calls like the ideational realm, the world of ideals, before we get to the material realm. So let's not try to ignore that.
So it's rare these days, a company that actually makes things here in the U.S., not just...
Gross. Yeah. And so my tracker thing doesn't goes through this. And so that I hate those advertisements.
I'm surprised that even had commercials in it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And this is something I downloaded. And so anyway, here we're back.
And I ended up going into, well, I met this guy who was himself a Mason. And he was a Jersey kid who was like my age. And we started, he had been exploring these haunted places. New Jersey is notorious for being haunted. They have a whole magazine called Haunted NJ, right? And not just Jersey, but let's say the East Coast.
But especially New Jersey.
Especially New Jersey. They've got some history there. I don't know what it is. And so he was exploring these places like Greystone, which was a massive mental hospital. Woody Guthrie was there, for example. And you saw it in the recent Bob Dylan movie. He goes and visits Guthrie at the Greystone Mental Hospital. This place was for 100 years, it was one of the biggest mental hospitals in the country. It was the biggest foundation when they built it until they built the Pentagon after. So it was a massive, we went to this place at night, and even though it was shut down, it was still, the lights were still on. And it's about 5 or 6 stories tall, and underground, there's tunnels and passages that go.
All right. SMS saying, yes, Sean's dad, Oliver Silverstein, or Oliver Stone, is a famous director and CIA asset, Yale graduate, member of Skull and Bones with John Kerry. So I don't need to fact check it. I believe it. Thank you, SMS. Oh, went through a little bit. My bad.
If everything is, let's say, like frequency, fear.
Go back a little bit.
Really felt a purging of energy, and the house burned down on its own within about to
what do we miss
different
here?
Rituals. And sometimes you'll feel the energy of that, like, oh, this is a place where there's a gathering that takes place and a certain energy gets created there. Same way as like a building. I mean, that's what a haunted house is, right? Like if you're in a house and it's someone gets murdered, it's going to have a heavier energy, right?
Yes.
Because it hasn't, unless you come and bless it and really, I don't know, do the right energy, do the work to move the energy through, to let it pass, right? To let the souls go. And I had that experience with one of the haunted places I went to. It was like a place that was notorious. It was next to a mental hospital where kids were housed. And this was upstate New York. This was different from Greystone. And in that house next to the mental hospital for kids, the legend has it that a priest that was molesting these kids at that property and actually killing some of the kids and doing black magic.
Ooh.
And
doing black magic. We're just going to throw that in there. Killing kids and doing black magic. Are those separate? Or was this person just killing kids because he's a fucking kid killer and he's not actually doing any magic whatsoever? He's just a sick, demented individual. Maybe integrating with black magic, but you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, like I sometimes wish like when stuff like that was said, it was maybe a little bit more explained. But
yeah,
I mean, listen, even I would say probably like, a huge chunk, like it's probably say like 90-something% of people that would even say that, like, if you are doing that shit in the name of magic, like there's something the fuck wrong with you.
yeah, exactly.
No, you know what I'm saying?
I know
like,
exactly what you're saying.
Like the reason that's black magic is because you're so fucking far off.
Yeah.
And your views of it is so perverted and actually incorrect that this has led you to do it the way you do it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah, and it's fascinating enough. It's like dark things, dark experience create. And so really important for everybody to look up Rupert Sheldrake and his understanding of the morphogenic resonance or morphogenic fields.
He's an interesting fellow, that guy.
Interesting fella, really smart man coming in.
Email him again.
Yes, you do. And so do I. We have to hit him from all sides. Because his idea is much needed to integrate our understanding of how memory works, that it's not just something in the brain. It goes back to, it's just like consciousness isn't something created by the nervous system. It's like a tuning fork or like a radio. You tune in to the correct frequency and your consciousness stems into it, right? And that's a layman's term, because technically your consciousness, your soul, and your body have some kind of contract that they integrated kind of perfectly with, and you to go through karma and trauma and experiences of not only this life, but past life, and many different things. And so the idea of morphogenic resonance in fields goes back to what we were talking about before we started listening, was with Nick talking about his sacred architecture. And once you build buildings based upon certain kind of frequencies, resonances, and proportions, like using sacred geometry and the correct materials, which can kind of integrate it into being a ginormous talisman, as in when created based upon the astrology and astroarchaeology and the rituals of those time frames, you can bring in energy into a vessel. And upon doing so, you can create mystical experiences or discover mystical experiences in those time frames. Or that inverted version of that is if you have an asylum or a place where people are sick and is creating these negative egregores of this fear and despair and anxiety and pain, that morphogenic field in that space is going to take on the memories of all the people who've passed through there. Just like the positive portion of that is then a lot of these people, like the Sean Stone and Tucker has said it, and people he's brought on have talked about how priests go in there to exorcise possessed individuals or demons, or individuals have had experiences of the demonic or nightmares, and then they call upon the name of Christ. Well, Christ has been used to heal for thousands of years, hundreds of years, and 1,000 years. And so enough people have created an egregore with this. And egregoric cymaticism. I fucking love that. Thank you, Howard. That's a great term. You're creating a frequency with that independent thought now, with that independent idea, which has created its own entity, and you're tapping into a healing source, a morphogenic field. Or the inversion, you're tapping into a demonic or a negative or a diseased field, which is then going to bring people in there, and then you'll have nightmares and you yourself will become sick and all these different things. Does that make sense, Nick?
Yes, I totally agree.
Nice. Okay, good.
At house, I saw people get possessed, and we heard the sounds of hell like coming from, I mean, it's hard to imagine that this is what we experienced. You know, we'd be upstairs and all of a sudden we'd hear howling.
And these moments can cause psychedelic moments, or which is different than a hallucination. You can hallucinate from these things, or it can create moments where we're all in on it together, which isn't a hallucination. Then it's more of a vision, but you're all experiencing what you think hell would be like.
Well, you know, this is actually interesting, just not to like kind of nerd out on this or take it too far, but like there's even something that I was like showing like in one of my episodes, Mechanics of Magic shit, where like, let's say we all know this. This is just a simple, easy way to explain it for the listeners to get what I'm getting at. You watch a horror movie, and if you happen to get into it, you shut that shit off, and if your house is quiet as hell, every small little sound is going to get a little spooky.
Yeah, that's good.
Because you're in that mindset.
Yeah.
It depending on what, if you go into something with a specific mindset and almost like a specific system for your brain to only work around in, it's going to feed that.
Oh, yeah.
So again, you could even like, oh, the sounds of hell. I mean, what the fuck does that? What does that sound like?
That's very metaphorical, story-like.
Yeah, no, but I'm just like, you know, certain
what
things.
Does that sound like?
Yeah. How do you like? How do you know? Like, it's not just you're kind of not fabricating, but like feeding.
Yeah, it's feeding, fabricating. Yeah, what is the word? It's more like embellishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an embellishment to prove a narrative. And that goes back to everything I'm always trying to, there's a narrative being pushed here. That then equating and using terms like black magic, these full words that emote some
terms with no description, that no detail at all.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Of dogs and laughter, of like demonic laughter and things like this echoing through the house.
Side note, I remember I haven't taken entheogens for a long time. I want everyone to know that when I trip hard, and I'm not one of those open trippers. I'm one of those people who's trying to have vision, do ritual and ceremony, and do magic while I'm doing it because I'm trying to do something and also let it take me. But I remember the last time I took large doses of mushrooms in my cave-like apartment, which I don't really denote anyone doing, but with a candle and the great band, Here's to You, Freighter, Tool, on, because that is how I trip into the great darkness, which leads me to the great light. But I remember a moment where, you know, your ego holds on and you go through really terrible things. But once you have the ability to let go, as Maynard says in The Grudge, as he continues to scream, let go, let go, let go. And finally, when you do, and then you reach that point of, I understood what a witch's cackle was, because all of a sudden, if somebody were outside my place looking in, they would have thought I fucking lost it. That I just went mad if they were to see me. And so I started laughing. And then I had after like not crying, but fucking being fearful, I'm meditating until finally you can't meditate as in sitting in lotus any longer with your candle and your ceremony. All of a sudden I needed to get a blanket and cocoon myself so I could like feel some kind of warmth. And then all of a sudden you go through that, and all of a sudden I remember laughing hysterically, kind of like a madman, like a joke, like the Joker kind of motif. And so a lot of these things are really interesting from an outsider perspective, from the perspective of somebody who's never done these types of things, how it can be seen, just like how Crowley would use certain terms from Christianity, and then people would see it as blasphemy when he used terms like Scarlet Woman or Babylon or all these different things. And then somebody from the outside who doesn't understand the symbolic language of alchemical traditions would be like, well, that sounds terrible. And he's all like, well, no, you're just not reading it correctly.
You know what's this is funny, but this is, I don't know what made me just think of this with Crowley. You know, it's supposed to being so blasphemous.
Yeah.
This is a good way, I think, to even get a point out, like, where the fuck did we go in the last 20 or 30 years? If you took probably the average person, honestly, even me, I don't want to throw you in there, not really, but like other people, if you were to actually put some of us, even the listeners, a mass population, honestly, I hate to say it, especially the influencers, and drop them back in the day with Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
They'd be saying worse shit about you.
Oh yeah, they would.
Yo, like we.
Oh yeah, Edward.
Really, if you want to look at the context of that time and the people that we are now, like we're more fucked up probably than they would think he was.
Oh yeah, Yeah, and at least they were well spoken. The jargon that we use to today is so childish. It's crazy. And like, just think of the Edwardian period where everyone was wearing suit and ties and blazers.
Yo, they'd be like, yo, you're a fucking ignorant piece of shit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they'd be like, yo, there's something fucking wrong with you people.
Yeah, I agree. Howard agrees, Nick.
Yeah. Just sometimes I think people should put that in context. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, look at who you are and think of putting yourself back then and what they would say about you.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. I completely agree. Yeah, chat says they agree.
And so we went back multiple times and we blessed the house, and the final time really felt a purging of energy, and the house burned down on its own within about a month or two. So
fascinating story, just so everybody knows. I'm going to say it really quick. When the Knights Templar and Daemonic were put up on trial by the Vatican and the church, and they were then killed, I believe it's still Daemonic, and you can fact check that name if I'm wrong. The idea was the leader of the Knights Templar basically put a curse on the king at that time frame, to say like, this is something is going to happen like 6 months from now that is going to basically put a bane on your kingdom and your society. And the fucking king's castle, it burnt down the exact time frame that Daemonic said it was going to. At the death of the Knights Templar as they were putting them through trial. So I think that was from McGregor's Knights Templar book and a few others that people should get. So learn your Templar history, because it's not what they're telling you.
That's the kind of thing we talk about, like the energy that gets trapped in places until you come with higher frequency of blessing a place and, clearing the energy. So again, we're talking of a battle of dark and light, those forces that draw upon dark energy because they can then invoke spirit, let's say darker spirits, that hooks into that. If everything is, let's say, like frequency, fear, things that are horrific, horror films play into the psychology, right? It's like Freddy Krueger, right? He preys upon, he's a dream demon, right? He infects people with fear. And we think about how like demons are what? They're scary, right? They're monstrous. They're shadows. They're things that that create fear.
Good question, Mystic Mama AE. Did the Templars evolve to Freemasonry that was then infiltrated? Excuse my ignorance, always trying to learn. You just missed it out. We talked about that earlier in the show. The Templar symbolism and Templar history and mythos is deeply integrated into Masonic initiation and going through once you get into the higher degrees of the Scottish Rite and or Yoke Rite. I can't remember, but I'm thinking Scottish Rite. But of what I know, it's not a direct historical line. So something really important to know is like they're always trying to connect those two, that the Templars became the Masons. But there is no actual history of that. Like the Masons were, small independent groups of operative Masons, actual stone Masons, people building things. And then they created degrees in these Masonic groups so that they would know each other as they moved through from city to city to gain jobs, and then handshakes and signs so they would know each other as they were doing these things. And then you get speculative Masonry, which is then people who weren't stone Masons wanting to also become making good men better, wanting to then go through these initiations that then they integrate with the story of Solomon and his temple and the story of Hiram, the murder of Hiram Abiff by the symbolic lowest by the three lowest desires, or these three charlatans who were his workers who then killed him because they were trying to find the secrets of Solomon. But
in us, and then it seems to be like the frequency match almost.
Do you think that's one of the reasons that Jesus so often tells his disciples not to be afraid?
Yes, that's exactly right. So remember when Jesus casts out the demons, he sends them into the swine.
Yes.
Right? He's like, yeah, get them out, get out of
the human
kill vessel, and they go and kill themselves, because a lot of the demonic, again, there's different frequency of demonic energy. There's madness.
Did he just say the demons made them kill himself? Is that, yeah. Nobody can make you kill yourself, by the way. Just that's why we do our practice, and that's why we have a sound mind, and that's why we use reason and critical thinking.
This is even another reason why I would even go with its negative aspects in your brain again or in your mind.
Yeah.
That's a voice in your head that you went with.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be listening to any of the voices in your head, right? Because those are all made up. Every voice, even the one you think you are, is made up in an illusion. We are supposed to calm our mind, and you'll never be able to make it go away. That is one of the new agey woo-woo yoga spiritual things. The thoughts never go away. You just calm them. They quiet a bit, and then you can pick out those lines. Because we're all schizo. As Grant Morrison put in the end of it, like that's one of the things. We're all fucking post-schizo grokking around as we do things. So
the psychosis we have experiencing in this country, I think, connects to it. A lot of it ties into alcohol and drugs. That's, lowering people's frequency. It's one thing to have, a glass or two, but as we know, a lot of alcohol, what does it do? It takes us out of our right mind. In my experience of seeing people get possessed.
Alcohol, right? Spirit. It's named that as for a reason.
That is interesting.
It's pretty much like seeing someone's, when someone's out of blackout drunk, and we've all seen it. Someone's coked up or out of their mind on with alcohol, and they behave erratically, irrationally. They get aggressive, they get mean, or they start laughing hysterically. And the next day, they may not remember anything. It's exactly what possession is. Because when you see someone get possessed, they just it's like a flip of a switch, and they go from someone you can see, look in the eyes and see what they are, to just checked out. I've seen.
This is an interesting thought. This is something that I was actually listening to. I think it was Douglas Rushkoff or Jason Louv. I don't remember. Both people I want to get on my show, and both people we should get on the Rejects. But they were talking about something that's really important, and it could have been somebody else. But the idea is that possession hasn't always been a negative thing. That
no.
You know what I mean? That we used to be possessed by Eros, right? By the divine madness that leads us to Sophia, that leads us to wisdom.
I think I even covered that when we did Serpent in the Rainbow.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had covered that, like, even in those traditions, sometimes being possessed actually wasn't a bad thing. You were actually letting like a divine thing kind of come in or some shit like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like what they say.
Protective. I forgot exactly, but it wasn't always negative.
No, not at all. Well, what do we think flow state is? When you're an athlete and you reach flow state, it's almost like being possessed by what? By Nike, which has been inverted into being a shoe, but actually like the goddess of victory, or being possessed by Apollo, the sun, being possessed by Hermes, so quick as lightning. And so when you are possessed by a god, right? Like in the mind of what I brought up, the bicameral mind by Julian Jaynes, is that you are possessed by a higher intelligent force of energy, just like an archetype, which is a psychical structure of a natural force that moves through the human nervous system, the human being in the world, and then we become embodied and we participate in a way that is almost more than what we are, right? And I think that's really important. But it's not always a negative being possessed by demons, and anybody who locks himself into those things. I think David Beth's actually talked about it in his thing where he's all like, and this is kind of a side note, but it's the same thing. In its own right, is that we always want to talk about how, I'm never worried about curses from little fucking school age TikTok witches or anybody in the magical society, community, because there's no actual lineage and tradition. But what you should be fucking worried about is a Haitian voodoo practitioner trying to curse you, because there's something coming from that. Or bards, as Alan Moore talks about. It's one thing that a magician could curse you, but what about your family? What about your family's family? A bard can weave a tale so strong that your legacy is cursed for a lifetime. And so that's the difference between these two iterations of will to power. Like you're trying to use your willpower to put something onto a person. Well, how most of these individuals out there in the magical, occult, esoteric community don't practice and training their will. And that because they've got fucking blue hair and don't know their gender. And so it's such a fascinating thing where it's like, if you don't have enough willpower to control yourself from the fucking Tavistock fucking dialectic that's being pushed by the DARPA and the military industrial complex. And again, do as you will, you know, that's the whole of the law. So you can be whoever you want to be. If you want to be a fucking dinosaur or, you know, whatever your pronouns are, I don't care. That's great. You be you. But the idea is your will to power. You don't have a willpower because you're giving up your will to a movement that's going to move away eventually when it's done with you.
The more specific you get about yourself, the more blindfolds, horse blinders you're putting on.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Thank you, Eros. I thought we're anti-dinosaur. We are, which is then why I related it to the what I related it to. Eros, as you know, we are pro dragon. We're very pro dragon around here. Dinosaurs are actually dragons. I mean, look at the T-Rex. These little arms. No, he had big fucking wings. Okay, these are wings. Okay, we move on.
People screaming. I've seen people laughing maniacally. I've seen just check out, like just staring blankly. But you know it. You know that this person's not in their right mind.
Yes.
And the key is to try to bring the light back, breathe, bring the good energy back, raise the frequency, so they can come back to themselves. So what I would say,
I will call a chicken a dinosaur, and ticks dinosaurs, and all these things. So there may have been certain kinds of dinosaurs. I hear you, but we need to integrate. We need to integrate dragons. Okay, good.
This battle is between the darkness that again feeds on that fear, that lower vibrational, psyche of like not being in our right mind, not being in our higher selves, right? Not being connected to our spirit, our higher, to God, basically, right? To spirit that is always available. But the dark side wants to lower that frequency to a place that would be closer to hell, right? What it's always been described as hell, a place of torture, of suffering,
yes.
of pain.
Place of the dead.
Yeah. Well, even worse than death, right? Death is one thing. Go below that, and it's like that's the level of self-destruction, like you said with the pigs, self-destructiveness. So this is the battle. And again, if the dark side has, waged war on mankind, let's say, right? If we believe, and this is not just Christian tradition. I mean, this is like
it's a lot of story there is.
Yeah, it's a lot of stories around the world have talked about this, that there's something that's waging war on mankind. They want possession of the soul. They want us to check out, to surrender, right? To check out, say, hand over control of the vehicle. And that seems to be the real battle, right? Are we autonomous beings? We have
hand over control of the vehicle, being right, climate change and carbon net neutrality. What does that mean? What are we made out of? Carbon? Wage war on us humans? We can connect all these dots. It doesn't have to be some great, yes, I do believe in this dark side versus light side type of thing, this, so to speak, Star Wars, dark force, light force. But at the same time, there are actual people who are actually waging war on humanity and humankind, and we can call them by name. The World Economic Forum being one of them, right? The military-industrial complex, DARPA, like Palantir, so these surveillance states, the Collins elite, Bilderberg, right? And so the bloodline families that are also doing these things. And so it doesn't have to be some mythical, big, bad entity, which we can use that as the chthonic forces of H.P. Lovecraftian entities that are like moving through us, which are fear, lust, greed. So I think it's really important to kind of like put these things in their place of the story.
Control of our vehicles. I mean, we all experienced this during COVID. Imagine like, all this seems so far out, but like during COVID, we actively saw people checked out from fear and like dead body, like dead things, putting on masks so they can't even really breathe. They can't, in a court of law, you can't speak if you've got a mask on, right? So like you don't have any say. So when you put a mask on, you're basically taking away your power to speak and to breathe. So you're like a dead thing now.
Whoa. Masks? I thought masks were good. I'm confused. Okay. Never mind. Let's move on.
And then beyond that, we saw the hysteria that came with it, from fear. All that fear around, you're infected, you might be infected, this person could be infected, you didn't get your shot, you better stay away, you can't come to the family gathering, you can't come to my establishment. And if you're in California, I mean, I left the state because it was like, I can get a fake vaccine card, but I don't want to engage with people that are mandating this.
Right.
What kind of hysteria, what kind of madness is this, right? So we've all experienced that kind of possession, not like some people personally experienced it and then said, wait a minute, I was in fear and I've woken up, and others just saw it and saying, it's like everyone's possessed all of a sudden by this, by this fear.
So what's in your toothpaste if you're using the...
What's in your toothpaste? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, from my understanding.
And it does matter. Don't use fluoride in your toothpaste. Fluoride's bad for you, children. I just want you all to know. I do like the nano part. There's a certain toothpaste that I really like out there, but I don't have any sponsors yet. So if there are any sponsors out there for Healthy Brand Healthy's toothpaste, I'd love to take it on. Put that out there. Thank you all for the Healthy Brand Healthy toothpaste that we use in this household.
He was with that lodge as well, but higher than I was. But the point is that it's an initiation that kind of what I felt was being observed and watched. And
thank you. Nanohydroxyapatite. That's that. Yes, I have that in my toothpaste. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you, Mystic Mama A. That's exactly what we're trying to say. Thank you.
I know it was watched because after doing the first degree initiation where you get the blindfold and the noose and all this stuff is online. I'm not revealing some secrets, all the phrases and things, the geometry of it, where you have to walk, certain.
You're talking about the entered apprentice degree, where you're taking on the idea of dying of your ego or dying of your old self and being reborn, which is actually a really important aspect of any initiation tradition. It's the Osiris slaying, right, Nick? Yeah.
Directions and points and say certain things. All that's online now. It's public. But when you perform it ritualistically like a play, there are other forces that are not human that are engaging in the experience. And
he's talking about the Freemasonic egregore.
I know that because when I was leaving the lodge that night with my friend, I got a phone call. And it was an unknown number. And this sort of husky voice.
Okay, so he's just talking about he was getting his entered apprentice degree and then he left the lodge with his friend and now he's getting a phone call.
Was on the phone and he was like, how was the meeting? And I was like, it's an interesting game you guys have going here. And it's like, And we were just talking a bit, saying a lot of things that were like biblical, 40 days in the cave, some stuff that I didn't understand. But I knew that they were watching me because I was walking back to my apartment in New York.
I knew that they were watching me because I was walking back to my apartment in New York.
And I'm like, oh, so you're watching me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? He's like, you're walking. So I stopped walking. And I'm like, oh yeah. He's like,
so didn't he just say he was talking to a friend from the lodge?
No, I think he said it was it was somebody that he didn't know.
Okay. A phone call he got. And then Husky voice, a phone call of a husky voice. It's like we're listening to Reddit right now.
Yeah, you stopped walking. And I was like, okay, it could be a guess, but let's just go, continue the conversation, go upstairs. And I had like a gray shirt on and black pants. And after I started recording the conversation, the audio did not record subsequently, only the video recorded. But
so his phone is in on the conspiracy, right?
As I was recording this, it was this man's voice, and then it would be a woman that would take over. So it was like two voices. It was one as a man, one as a woman. And then she basically said, stop recording. And I was like, I didn't stop. I would maybe stop for a minute, then I turn it back on. And I had at that time I had a cross on. It was not a cross. It was a Islamic sword.
A cross? No, it's not Christian. It's an Islamic sword. I had an Islamic sword on. Why?
That I had as a necklace.
I wonder if it was China.
Interesting, but he's getting his second. He's only getting his first degree.
Yeah, you'd have to be up a little bit more, I think, in order to do that.
Which, again, everyone, you can go look up exactly what the Entered Apprentice degree is about. You just Lost Keys of Freemasonry. Manly P. Hall has tons of work on it. Mark Stavish has done it. Angel Miller has talked about it. Jason Paul Lamb has talked. What's his name?
Oh, Jamie Paul Lamb.
Jamie Paul Lamb has a whole book on it. A great book. And so there's tons of work on the Masons that we all can know what the Entered Apprentice degree is.
My shirt off, and she's like, "Put your shirt back on." And I was like, "Oh, you don't like this symbol, or what's wrong?" And it was like, "Put your shirt back on." And I'm like, we just continued to talk, but there were a few things.
The symbol, he doesn't know what he was wearing.
That I remember distinctly, including her saying, "I'll leave you with this. You're wearing a gray shirt with black pants." So something.
Gray shirt with black pants because he just got done with his degree, so he was just coming from looking nice, obviously.
Had been observing me that night, and they continued to talk with me, and it was essentially, they texted me thereafter, and it was like it went on for an hour or so, like off and on. My friend who took me there got really sick to his stomach. He was like vomiting actually after that, during that same time that I was on the phone, and he really was like physically out of it. And so I was conversing with these things for like an hour. And again,
with these things, he's conversing with people, not things. He's conversing with people on a phone for like an hour. His friend's convulsing, right? And I want everyone to know out there, because maybe you don't understand the way I think about things, is obviously what he's saying we need to see from multiple models of reality. He could be making this up and already knew what they were going to talk about, or knew this was going to come up. So he made this up to sound cool and important, which we know people that have done it in our lives, right? We all know people who have embellished and made up lies to make themselves sound cool, right? And the spiritual community and the occult community and our normal everyday community and the religious community, all these things. Or actually, he got a phone call because he's Sean Stone. He's Oliver Stone's son. So he is in the big club of nepotism and craziness. And so there are people watching him that are part of the 3-letter agencies fucking with him, who have integrated themselves into their lodge because it's easy. All you have to do is act like a good person and say the right things. And a bunch of individuals could just be like, "Oh, this is a great person. His background check worked out. We need more people. This is great. Let's bring him in." And as we heard in the Lost Symbol of Dan Brown's book, you can have bad people being initiated because they act good, right? And so that, or what were you gonna say?
I said, "Oh no, yeah."
Or there actually was ultra-terrestrial demonic entities tapping into his cell phone, making it so it didn't work, and they were fucking with him because they are the Jacques Vallée / Peter Lavenda Men in Black, who are trying to fuck with this one individual who really doesn't have any power whatsoever over anything. So multiple realities to see this through.
Sorry.
No, go. Yeah.
To you earlier, I said there's like two things I see with this: the guy's making it up, or if it really happened, he was being trolled.
Yeah, I like this frat boy hazing stuff. That's funny. No, I completely agree. Yeah, it's silly.
The fallen angels, because this goes back to, again, the jinn, the unseen world, the idea that, remember, the Book of Enoch talks about this, that the fall basically is not just Lucifer's. It's like Lucifer and the 300 or 3,000, the 300, I think, that fell. But a lot of it had to do with the origin of like how the angels fell in love with human women, right? That's the story of Enoch, was that they fell in love with human women. They had children, the Nephilim, the fallen ones, or also, I guess they're also fallen ones. And
I think it's like 200. I don't know.
Bloodline war, basically, of like, fallen angels having.
Do you see? He just said Bloodline War. Interesting enough. So that's an interesting little drop there. And yes, the Book of Enoch talking about the Watchers. The Watchers are the fallen angels. The Watchers gave the gifts of the gods to the humans, and fell in love with the women and mated and did the thing.
He says some really interesting shit with this, where I think in certain ways I do think he makes a good point, and then also like this is like very this part right here is very interesting. That's all I can say. I
Right.
think, and I'll go on as he mentions shit.
Cool.
Children of human women and becoming like the great leaders of old. The
Men of renown.
the men of renown, exactly.
Yeah.
The leaders of the military and the emperors or kings of the time, royal bloodlines. So all this came up that night.
What's interesting is if you bring up that story from Enoch, and it's alluded to in Genesis 6 as well, people look at you like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Where does that come from? Is that like a David Icke concept or something? But then if you just assess it non-emotionally, that's pretty much every religion tells that story, including Christianity.
Right.
Jesus is the product of spirit and a human woman,
Right.
God and Mary. So
Metaphorically,
the Greek myths are the same.
Alexander his mother said that Zeus came to her.
Exactly. So I'm not,
or a great dragon is actually the interpretation of how Alexander was. Yeah.
I mean, that's not proof, but it's certainly an indication this is not like a crazy new theory that David Icke thought up.
Not at all. And that's why I always say
It's like the basis of every religion.
Yeah, but that's why people get so they want you to think about Icke as like he's the crazy guy. But that's why I studied history, because I wanted to say, no, Icke is just picking up on old traditions and he's just listening to people that are telling him stories, which I think
you can hear that story in any church in the United States every Sunday.
Exactly.
So, right. So it's not conceptually, it's not a departure from what people have thought for thousands of years, that there is the physical reality of actors from the spiritual realm impregnating human women.
Right. And going again, I mean, even the Anunnaki texts of the Sumerians before, which predates the Old Testament, talking about exactly this thing about the Anunnaki sky gods creating the first humans as their workers. And, and again, like the flood.
Which is a Zecharia Sitchin thing.
Yeah, you know what? I would just want to throw this in there real quick. What I find interesting about this part is that I do agree actually with what he's saying here with this whole. If you really want to try to like start looking at the Nephilim, I think you can find other examples. But like, well, what is that then?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That could start making things a little iffy. The reason why I want to focus on that is because that I do think what I was referring to before. It's a very interesting thing I see going on is how certain radicalized Christians want to start taking almost kind of a conspiracy theory thought, change almost kind of the religion itself by now equating something to be specific to now. To then use that to spin off satanic panic and just, this whole everything's demons. Because I do see the Nephilim as being the gateway to now start bringing in that aliens or demons.
That's great. Yeah.
Like the Nephilim to me is like the mechanism that I think is going to be used as the justification to start like pointing fingers at certain things.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
to get them going even more with silly shit.
Yeah, no, that's important, and it's important because then it can lead to people that we're kind of connected to. Dr. Heather Lynn, who's doing amazing work on the Anunnaki with her Anunnaki Revelations, and trying to talk about things that maybe there is something to do with this ultra terrestrial, but it's also integrated with this idea that it doesn't have to come from outside of our planet. It can be something that's going on with our planet and past civilizations that happened pre-Younger Dryas period, as Graham Hancock is talking about all the time. That like, what if the Sumerian epic of the Enuma Elish with Enki and Enlil and the Apkallu is actually hitting on something that of individuals and these magicians of the gods that actually they knew about the cyclical nature of our planet and how it goes through catastrophes that line up with the precision of the equinoxes. And when you know about these things, then you can prep for the next one, which could be also why our parasitic class of oligarchic tech bros and bloodline families are trying to say that they have this divine lineage of this divine right of kings, and B, they are also building bunkers because they don't know what the fuck to do. They're trying to get off planet. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen as the poles seem to be shifting so slightly, and our weather patterns are weird as we move from solar minimum to solar maximums and back and forth. And so, some pretty interesting stuff.
the flood mythology comes from that.
Right.
The
That
same,
God was so displeased by the behavior of the Nephilim that he destroyed the world.
right.
And they're
Howard, you're talking about Muramasa? You're talking about the sword maker, the sword maker that swords were possessed by the blood, and this whole lineage of swords that was built now have this possession of a blood pact that moves through time. Muramasa and Masamune. Brilliant. Thank you, Howard. That's true. You can go hit up. I actually explained that whole thing in my Kagurabachi episodes and a manga that's out there. So thank you, Howard, for the obscure reference of blood and swords and Japanese mythology.
behavior that he specifically called out was violence.
Right. And eating of humans. The Nephilim did. Remember?
Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, have you ever heard that before? That's like actually new to me.
To say it again.
Did he start saying that one of the parts or one of the reasons why the Nephilim were considered evil or bad was because they started eating humans?
Never heard of that before.
Yeah, he goes on about that here right now.
Really? Oh yeah. The giants ate the humans. Do you remember?
That's it's in folklore. I think isn't it? Isn't that folklore stuff where Jack climbed a beanstalk and up there were a bunch of or the trolls over the bridge? I don't know. That seems pretty folklore-y to me.
That's in
It's in one of them. It's
in one of them. It's in one of them. It's like, okay, great. Thanks, Sean. I thought you wanted to know history, and now we're talking about myth and folklore. And so, of course, giants eat humans.
I mean, I thought it was in the Bible, but it's definitely in Enoch then, because that was the issue, that the giants were eating people.
No, that's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. The idea, yes, in the Bible it states that, and so we all know Noah and his ark isn't just in the Bible in that time of Abraham. It's actually also in the epics of Gilgamesh. It's in Chinese mythology, South American mythology. The Great Flood of the Younger Dryas period, of the wiping of the old world into the new, or whenever that happened, is one of those things that is all over the place. And were the Watchers who birthed this bloodlines, were they eating humans and creating giant centaurs and fucking unicorns? I don't know. It's craziness.
And so this, then takes us to the very, present day of, when the lore around demons drinking human blood, or demon possessed humans drinking human blood, Dracula mythology, right? I mean,
yes.
This is all, it's drawn upon the old world, but when Hunter S. Thompson talks about adrenochrome and people say, oh, he made that up. And I go, yeah, except I talked to a military intelligence guy who goes, adrenochrome is real because it comes across our messaging boards all the time. Adrenochrome is being trafficked into the country.
So adrenochrome is a compound from the human adrenal gland. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, my understanding is it's like an adrenaline. Basically, it's adrenaline that gets secreted and from obviously adrenaline from anxiety, from stress, from fear. And it's something specifically that is being used for, as a drug, or is it demonic food? I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I've personally experienced, but it's like we're connecting the ancient world to the modern world, and it seems to be, if it's one long thread, we can't just ignore that.
Well, here's something that
can't just ignore that. Well, we could just ignore that or not. I mean, the idea more or less is like, why are we talking about that when bringing those things up when there are actual the elites and not even like that, right? Parasitic class. There's lots of human trafficking going on and these different things, and yet we want to talk about maybe one drug that whatever. It's craziness.
Interesting that you mentioned 45. Obviously, that's the end of the Second World War,
right?
British broadcasting was originally part of British intelligence. Like it was always, they understood that propaganda was key. I mean, that was
right.
First World War
thank
effort.
You. Young Stitches, I'm guessing this is from somewhere in biblical text. These giants consumed everything humans produced, and when humans could no longer support them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. That just sounds like the same thing that we're always getting in our mythology, where, Kronos, it kills his father Uranus, and Zeus kills Kronos, and now, Zeus is then taken over by, the humans try to take down Olympus. So we're always trying to kill our father, right? Very Freudian, getting back into that the Freudian shit that we don't want to get stuck with.
Bringing us into the First World War, getting us involved, and then obviously the Second World War the same. There was a huge amount of propaganda that was put out for it, but then we adopted those same techniques post 45. I would say with the various radio projects, whether it was and from radio to television, right? The same concept. A lot of the guys, as you know, that were like intelligence OSS officers or part of the OSS, then became like executives and whatnot for the original, TV channels, which, as you know, at the time was like, like 4? It was like ABC, CBS,
3 plus PBS,
NBC,
4.
Right. And so it was very important to send out messaging, and then likewise with radio.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? Hey there, Mystic Mama. Isn't it like they're just dropping shit all over the place? So how can the normie individual take in any of the information besides just getting fear mongered into all these different talking words?
Yeah, so I was even saying before, because then there is shit in there that's like kind of like, serious, that I could see like really captivating you, and then when they throw this shit in, you just take it as, well, that shit sounded good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The prior stuff sounded pretty deep. This motherfucker knows what he's talking about. I guess I'll believe what he says.
Yeah, both these people are authorities. That's Oliver Stone's son. Tucker's a truther.
It was the same thing. It was like, okay, first radio was used, for information before television, but then radio became the music. And so it became like top 40. What was it? The top 40 project? Yeah. Like essentially it was like, let's figure out how to basically condition people using music. And it's no longer going to be symphonic, right? Like long symphonic pieces of music. It's going to be short, 3 minutes or less of, something that can like hook people and
culturally
propagandize over and over, hypnotize people essentially. I mean, that's what music does. Think about when we engage with, so interesting engaging with young people now and seeing how much like, when I was a kid, hip hop was kind of coming, it was coming on in the 90s. But nowadays it's like all those lyrics, a lot of the more debasing, lyrics, let's say, how do you end up with an OnlyFans culture? Well, it starts with the lyrics that are put out through hip hop music that's propagated to every, young kid across the country.
Propagated by the military industrial complex and hip hop rap culture. Gangbang culture was put out there by the fucking CIA and the 3-lettered agencies.
And then that becomes part of the cultural conditioning, languaging, all these things. So I think music is one of the most important magical tools that,
no doubt,
that's used to obviously influence culture. And then obviously not just music, and film, and nowadays with streaming, it's putting people into hypnotic states for hours on end, right? When you stream things into the consciousness.
Yeah, or social media are hypnotic, I've noticed, and very addictive. So
much like going to Vegas with not only the blue lights hitting the dopamine drop all the time, but as you scroll, what does this look like? Let alone it being like slots, also looks like something else. You know what I'm saying?
TikTok especially. I mean, people literally just fall asleep to it. It's just scrolling, streaming.
So part of the point of the propaganda effort is not just to highlight lies, but to prevent people from considering things in full context or seeing the whole picture.
Always.
Eliminating certain important themes from the public conversation. And certainly anything supernatural would fall into that. Blood and genetics would also be part of that. But the people who run the world never stopped paying attention to the supernatural, to blood and genetics, did they?
No, I don't think so. I mean, from my experience, and again, I mean, I have a limited experience of it, but you talk to some of these families, and I mean, first of all, in the UK, you feel it, especially in England, the aristocratic culture, the mindset. To this day, they still have a king. It's
yes.
Okay. They still have the aristocracy and the bloodlines, families and whatnot, and their traditions. And then, you think about some of these families talk about they can trace their ancestry back to the Roman Empire or even before sometimes. But again, it's just whether or not you're aware, whether or not you're aware of it.
You're muted, bud.
Thank you. Not only are these bloodline families tracing themselves back to the Roman Empire, that's not even the Roman Empire, 100 AD on all the way up. It started before then, obviously, into BC timeframes, but they're tracing their lineages back all the way back to Sumer and Babylon, into Sargon and Akkad and all these different, and so they're trying to trace their bloodline families all the way back pre that time frame, 6,000, 13,000 and beyond. And so we all have to remember out there that I'm always trying to hit on is that the Vatican has so much of our history locked up into their archives, let alone the British Museum, let alone the National Science Museum, let alone what China has and Russia has and all the stuff that they sacked from fucking the Nazis as the Nazis were going out there looking for occult history. But and so they're like tracing these things back to root races like Blavatsky was doing and all these things, which is neither here nor there. But the idea of that it only goes back to the Roman period, because we have to remember, as we know with Peter Mark Adams' work, that he's hitting on that Rome and the Mithraic cults stem pre that into your Middle East, into your Persia, Iran, that's the same place, all the way back to Babylon. And that's where Dr. Heather Lynn's work and Peter Mark Adams' work is aligning, is that they're tracing these stellar cults, which is where we can get our Mithraic cult from of Rome, to the Orphic tradition of the egg of Phanes, right? And being born from the light, being born from there, all the way back to the stars, of how these are rituals of the stars and these stellar cults. And so it's a fascinating thing that there's so much more going on, and it isn't all just blood-sucking demons and like the Abrahamic traditions being the things that are trying to save us. It's like, no, like the Abrahamic traditions are coming from these stellar mystical traditions that are trying to initiate people into what is truly going on with the world and the humans that inhabit it, which is really important. And it's not just for the upper oligarchic transhumanist class of the parasitic class. It is for every single one of us, which is why places like here, MagusintheMedia, the Occult Rejects, why we talk to so many people, why we have so many conversations about this, and why we hit on it so hard, is that there is so much more going on than we could ever imagine. And right now the curtain is being raised from this game, but at the same time there's so much chaos going on that it's hard to parse fact from fiction.
I think some families more so than others. The families that are more aware of it, I think, have a certain conditioning process that some people talk about when it comes to the pedophilia. I think that's more normalized. It's kind of part of the boarding school culture.
Yep.
Oftentimes, like that was my sense of it when I was at Oxford for 2 terms, and hanging out with some people, some families that are more known than others, and they would talk. Some of them would tell me the boarding school culture was very, you could say homosexual, and that kind of dates back to in terms of the ideology.
Whoa!
Boarding.
That's crazy. Oh, screwed it up. Where are we at here?
Originally part of British intelligence. Like it was
on security camera.
Then we adopted those same techniques.
All right, we're moving ahead because I fucked up. But the idea is, he just said boarding school culture has a lot to do with homosexuality. We didn't say that. He did for some reason. Whatever that means. Let's move ahead
to it. It's just scrolling, streaming.
So part of the point of the propaganda effort is not just to highlight lies, but to prevent people from considering things in full context or seeing the whole picture.
Always.
Eliminating certain important themes from the public conversation. And certainly anything supernatural would fall into that. Blood and genetics would also be part of that. But the people...
We truly have the best audience. We truly have the best comments. I'm serious.
who run the world never stopped paying attention to the supernatural, to blood and genetics, did they?
No, I don't think so. I mean, from my experience, and again, I mean, I have a limited experience of it, but
Oh yeah, we already saw this. Thanks, guys.
I can't help you. Basically, I don't know what.
I think I'm jumpier than you, because if I was, in between degrees in the Masons and Satan started calling me, I would drop out.
Well, it's not about dropping out or not. It's about
There you go, guys. And Satan started calling him. This is where the obfuscation and the embellishment happens.
He even talks about the whole 666 number. I don't know if we jump past that or not, but he does mention where he was getting like phone calls from 666.
Let's see. Yeah, it's
that sends, its sons to boarding school at 7 or 8 years
Here we
old.
go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or even younger sometimes.
Or even younger.
And that's how you get a strange priest class culture. That's why you get, when you take the feminine out of things and we vilify sex and the eros, the erotic nature of humanity and intimacy, you are going to get people who are trying to repress desires instead of work through them and understand the monster within can be integrated so we can become heroes on our path.
Yeah, my grandfather went, at that kind of age, and I wasn't good for him. I don't know why you would do that, but it has something to do with breaking down.
And it's not the Freemasons who love their drama. It's mainstream individuals who are trying to LARP for certain groups, because it's like the Freemasons mostly, again, this is an abstraction and a generalization. It's not the Freemasons. It's individuals who then come out of those things, don't understand the symbolic narrative that the psyche is going through to go through a dying process and being reborn a new individual. And so we are all trying to master ourselves in this great game we call the world. And I think that's really important. So it's not about that, because I think, again, the Masons give a lot of great things to the world, and government, like a lot of Masonry is outlawed in different countries has been in the past, because it's dangerous when good men stand up for the three pillars: beauty, strength, and wisdom. I think these are really important things. Oh.
Normal qualities in a young man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a pederasty thing, but it does have to do with...
Yeah, abuse has many forms.
That's right.
There's the physical, there's the verbal.
Yeah.
The sexual is just usually like the one that no one wants to talk about.
No, that's right.
But obviously occurs.
So, okay. So
and you're right. He does. He keeps saying he has limited experience, and then goes on to try to talk about all of his experience. And so that's a good call.
I mean, it's not like you ever like establish like I'm going to meetings. No, I wanted to initiate to 3 degrees.
You do. You establish. You sign up. You sign the petition, and then people are all like, you interview with 2 Masons. And those Masons are like, okay, start coming to things. Let's get you kind of see if you like it. And then you need every Mason in your lodge needs to agree that you can be accepted. Otherwise, you're not accepted. So it's not like it's just willy nilly. I wanted to do it, so I did it. It's like, no, there is like, you are now initiating as an entered apprentice. Your petition has been signed, and now you're going to go through 3 degrees. And until you reach Master Mason degree, the 3rd degree of the Blue Lodge, you are not a Mason. Blue Lodge, blue meaning the color of higher avatardom, like Krishna was blue. A lot of these higher beings come down as blue. Why? Because blue is the color of the 4th Sephirah, Chesed, or Jupiter. Jupiter, blue. So this is really important as you move your way through the tree. Blue is this sphere that has its own intelligence and force, so we can understand its correspondence into our world. This guy's such shit.
I entered, and in between, by the way. Okay, so this is why I know this gets far out, but like in between,
we're already pretty far out.
The initiation, the 1st degree and the 3rd degree, in that time period, I would get phone calls from 666 numbers all the time. 666, 6666. We want your soul, like just demonic voices.
Bro, somebody's fucking with this guy. It's so ridiculous. 666 is carbon. 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons is the planet we live on. That's a 311 song, by the way.
Yeah, I can't with this. I don't buy it. Well, like I said, he's being fucked with or trolled.
That's so crazy.
Your soul is kind of nonsense.
So Satan called your cell.
I mean, I don't know if if it was Satan or the CIA, but someone with a 666 number that sounded satanic called my cell and would be like, "We want your soul," and I would just laugh. I don't.
You must have the worst friends.
It's not mine to give. My soul belongs to God, so I don't know what you're talking. I can't help you. Basically, I don't know what.
I think I'm jumpier than you, because if I was, in between degrees in the Masons and Satan started calling me, I would drop out.
Well, it's not about dropping out or not. It's about initiating as I said, it's an initiating and understanding of the world. And that's why I believe the checkerboard is very real. Like the way that it's designed is the checkerboard on the floor. It's black and white. Not all Satanists are evil. I do believe that there's the path of light and there's a path of dark. They want to assess who you are. And as I say, like a higher realm wants to know what you are. So I believe that people that join.
And black and white isn't just of the checkerboard, isn't just good and evil. It actually is a representation of the two pillars on either side of the tree of life, or the two pillars you walk through when you enter into the lodge, Joachim and Boaz, which is obviously in the Bible as well. But the idea of the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. It's not always in this black and white good versus evil thing, which is the dualistic nature that the fundamentalists are trying to continually put us in, that there's this all good thing and this all evil thing. Never the two shall meet. No, we need to move into the thinking of the Platonic good, that anything that is a representation of that good is a privation of the good. And you can be completely a bad, terrible person. Obviously, evil can be a used word, because I totally feel like there are evil people in the world. But in the Platonic worldview, you see that as a privation of the good, not that it is its own all evil thing, this dualistic way of seeing stuff.
Who choose the darker side. I think I've seen it.
And then also the black and white checkerboard, I forgot, is the yin and the yang. And so they need each other. Big one here. The yin and the yang need each other, because of that is how you create the 10,000 things of this world, of the kingdom.
They basically are willing to do anything. They're willing to drink the blood. They're willing to make the oath, essentially, to the dark, because they just want power. And if they know that your soul isn't wired that way, you don't end up on the satanic path. So again, like a lot of these were just kind of tests. I felt like they were just kind of tests, just kind of like I got a call from Azazel one time. Azazel's the angel of death, right? Azazel calls, and then like a day or two later, my grandmother passed away. When my grandmother.
Wait, the angel of death called yourself?
Shut up. He just said Azazel called him, and then his grandmother passed away a few days later.
You know what the thing is, like this is like one of those things that's like, oh, if you put it that way, like your conscience is even going to tell you should feel bad questioning if this is a lie.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, I hate to say it, but I do think that is done a lot. I mean, look how certain politics even work that way.
Yeah, that's wild. Azazel was a watcher, right, in the book of Enoch, known for corrupting. He's uniquely blamed for revealing heavenly secrets that led to humanity's ruin. He taught men how to make swords, knives, shields, and coats of mail. It's an easy Google. Azazel is not calling you. And if you think that's what's happening, you should probably go to a therapist, because these forces don't know how to use phones. And if they are, you need to check yourself, but you need to figure out what you're going through, because it's more than just for some reason, not all Masons get the phone call from Azazel. So what are you doing? What are you doing, Sean Stone, in the corner of your own home? Maybe we should check his computer history.
Yeah. Oh shit. Well, it's like it basically identified itself as Azazel. And
what did you say?
No, I knew what Azazel was. So I knew a spirit of death was around. And then, like I said, my grandmother passed, like, I think within 1 or 2 days of that call. So I was like, wow, okay.
Was grandma sick? Questions. And rest in peace, grandma. So we are very compassionate here at MagusintheMedia and the Occult Rejects. And so we don't want to make light of his grandmother dying, because grandmas are really important in our life. But he didn't say that grandma had already been dealing with a lot of health problems.
I was going to say, how do you know this isn't something that was already said like 6 months ago, like your time's up?
That's exactly it. And so now this is really important of why we need to train in philosophy and understand objective reality, as we need to know the difference between causation and correlation, because there's a massive difference between these things.
What did the Angel of Death say on the phone?
It wasn't, I don't remember, like, again, it wasn't like I remember specifically an announcement of something. It was just more of like in that time period.
I agree,
it was
Frater.
So many
I agree.
calls from these things like wanting my soul, and
lucky dude, I guess.
sometimes it was witches cackling, like, you know, come play with us, like come join us. Sometimes it was one time, and it's funny.
It truly feels like Sean Stone is going through a mental break. Actually, like this whole thing is him going through a mental break, and he didn't really have much foundation to stand upon to begin with. Maybe because his dad sold him into slavery at a young age. I don't know.
I played this on Alex
Not saying anything, but I'm saying something.
Jones' show actually back in 2012. It was a call from, again, 666, and they were doing Baal worship. They're like calling up.
This is a good one.
Yo, you know what's interesting though? You mentioned before, maybe it could be like the military or some sort of intelligence agency.
Yeah.
I will say it's interesting because he had said before it was all sixes. You know, I've mentioned before that I did time in the feds.
Yeah.
When I had a federal probation officer, whenever they called, it was all nines.
Really?
Yeah, they had a way to where they could hide their numbers so you didn't know it personally, so you couldn't like fucking annoy them.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Okay, so what Nick of the Occult Rejects is saying, our great friend Cardinal Head is saying, is that people can mask their number by having it be shown as a different number?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like right there, I've experienced the federal government do that to me when they called me for probation. It was all nines. So, I mean, could you have an agency that's like, all right, we'll just throw all sixes in there? Mind fuck this dumb dude. You got the 3 6s in there, so now his mindset's already in that thought that now when
crazy,
you tell Zazel, they'll fucking moron will believe him.
No, that's genius. And because what that reminds me of is the book Robert Anton Wilson wrote about Aleister Crowley and how Crowley would bring people through levels of initiation. It was probably embellished a little bit, but you would mindfuck somebody. It's called Operation Mindfuck for a reason. And the idea, you know, and that's Robert Anton Wilson's word for it. But Crowley would put people through levels of initiation into the world at the same time to see how much and how you could put somebody into imprint vulnerability. It's called the Historical Illuminatus. No, it's not the Historical Illuminatus. It's another one. I have it back here. I can't think of it, but check out Robert Anton Wilson's work. But it's a conversation that Einstein is having with Carl Jung, talking with this other character, talking about his experiences of going through Crowley's AA, and Crowley being the huckster that he is, and slight mentalist at times, showing how to break down an individual to rebuild them with a magical worldview. And so I'm not saying that's what's happening to Sean Stone, but there's a lot going on here that sounds like Sean Stone's going through a fucking mental break. Crowley was MI6. Crowley was part of World War II, and he helped us defeat the Germans, the Nazis. By the way, we don't believe the Nazis actually fell. They just moved over to the great 3 countries, and that's how we created NASA. So that's
the peace sign, supposedly.
It's Typhon. So he created Typhon to defeat the sun, the solar swastika, and so there was a great occult history going on at that time frame.
Ball, and they were like, it sounded like they were doing a ritual. These demonic voices are like, ball, la la, you know, they're doing a ritual on this, on the phone call. So it was almost like they were trying to like engage my energy for what they were doing. You see, that goes back to the question around the dark side wants more energy because, again, it's disconnected from God. Well, I mean, is it disconnected? Let's just say they're more disconnected. I don't think anything is disconnected from God.
There is nothing disconnected from God, because if we can translate the God from being the Abrahamic tradition, which stole the prime mover idea from Aristotle, but that's not what Aristotle was talking about. You cannot like relate these two. Is that there is no such thing as something away from the good.
Yeah, these comments are killing me.
It's all God's universe.
Yeah,
So I don't think the dark. I think the dark still ultimately serves the creator's intention. I don't think you can't divorce yourself from the universe. But let's just say their frequency is lower, so they're drawing upon higher vibrational energy to try to draw us down. That's the battle, right? It's like, how many of those of the light can we bring to the dark? How many can we sink to our level?
Eros is fucking hilarious.
If we can't, They stopped after 2012, after my last degree of initiation. And after 2012, I never got calls again.
2012 is last degree of initiation. Strange enough, theory that in 2012 the world did end and we've been stuck in a slow time warp to make it so we didn't realize that the world ended. Our psychology doesn't really handle apocalypse very well.
So I just felt like it was this kind of testing phase.
This guy needs to... Yeah, I agree, Frater. Get a new fucking
Yeah,
number, bro.
what about changing his
Maybe they've
number?
taken
Get a new
form,
number.
You know, not saying everything, like life is obviously full of challenges. So I think the dark can manifest in different ways. But for me, it was like, it was a very overt confrontation with something that people would think is, you know, a fairy tale until you've lived it.
Do you think other people at the lodge, at the Cornerstone Lodge in New York, were having similar experiences?
Well, I mean, I know the person I went with did, but like some of the other guys that I knew, I don't think anything changed in their life because, yeah, I mean, we all have different paths, right? We all do, like...
Frater, I didn't know it. I think you just showed yourself as... Frater's an op of...
So
obviously 999. Thanks, Frater. At least you tell us. That's good.
You know, my path.
Frater is an op of Yesod, an op of the moon on the ninth Sephira of the Tree of Life. Thank you for being an op of the moon, Frater.
Was frankly initiatory. I wanted to explore these things. You know, I went all the way to Iran just to talk to, you know, guys that were talking to jinns and trying to understand how the world, you know, is working. Right.
What drove you?
Yeah, just.
Well, you grew up in a materialistic society in Southern California where the possibility of this stuff was not discussed, I would think.
Well, no, I mean, I wasn't, you know, my dad took me to India and Tibet when I was, you know, 10. And, you know, we went to the Himalayas and went to like visit, you know, Tibetan monasteries. We went to, what's that, the Tala Palace. And, you know, they depict demons and stuff very overtly in the iconography, right? If you look at the artwork, right, of Tibet, Nepal, the Buddhist cultures, and even Hindus, right? Like, you know, they understand that there's demons and angels, and well, they wouldn't call it angels, I guess, but like demigods, right? I mean, they would describe like demigods, right?
They don't call it that either.
Angelic, more divine, powerful beings.
Devas, they call it devas.
The dark faces of the demonic realm.
And devas and angels. Angel means devas, and this just means messengers. Messengers from different realms or frequencies or areas of our human consciousness that are tapping into, you know.
I'm almost positive I've even mentioned them on the show, covering certain topics as either things like in a positive sense or bringing like negative news.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
They look at everything, I think, as like different temptation. So it's like you have to get comfortable. You have to face the demon. You know, you can't. If you hide it, it gets scarier. Just like in a horror film, right? It's always scarier when you don't know where the monster is.
Which is then why a lot of goetic work is about evoking spirits into a triangle, which I don't actually think anybody should ever fucking do, because there's ways to work through your psychological demons, psychophenomenological demons, which are real and they do possess you and they do take shapes and forms. But the idea is to integrate. You must integrate the shadow parts of yourself so you can truly stand up in your call to adventure as the hero and not be a coward.
Once you can face the monster, you take away its power. Or as going back to the dream demon, the Freddy Krueger, it's like I take my power back. I'm not afraid of you anymore. That's the only way to defeat the monster.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Fear and hate also feed the demons.
Yeah, well, my dad made a whole film, Natural Born Killers, kind of about this thing.
Great film.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, Natural Born Killers, if you watch it as two demon-possessed people, which is really what they are, the main characters. Mickey, he's been abused by his father, who kills himself. He's been physically abused by his father. The Juliette Lewis character has been sexually abused by her father. And it's like all this kind of chaotic American media, glorification of these two serial killers, but they're going through their journey of hell, basically, like a hellscape, until they find that love kills the demon, right? That's their salvation, is through love. But if you watch the movie as just like two demon-possessed people, it's pretty interesting.
Okay, so if we
Got weird there for a second. See that? Got
Yeah.
weird. Got a brief little ha 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 ha. Well, yeah, it's cool. Cool movie, right?
think that hate and fear feed,
Yeah, I do. See how smoothly, thank you, Frater, he conflates psychopathy with actual possession. Yes. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
that's a great point. I do.
Yeah.
dark forces, spiritual forces.
Unconscious hate. I think there's healthy. We hate certain things that we find intolerable.
Right.
But if we hate the person, if we demonize the
hating
person,
people.
right?
Yeah.
That's feeding the
Wanting
darkness.
to hurt other people,
Right.
Having malice toward others.
Yeah, exactly.
And then fear, being terrorized. If those are both spiritual foods for demons, how should we understand our government's concerted effort over many years to make us terrified and hateful?
Not just the government, media with it, right? Like
Yes.
media and government working hand in hand.
Right. I mean, those kind of are the
Yeah.
messages, really.
Yeah.
There's someone you need to be afraid of, and there's someone you should hate.
Yeah.
You're required to hate.
Well, think about the nature of the Masonic lodges. There's the Red Lodge and the Blue Lodge.
I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
the
What's a Red Lodge? I don't.
One is the York and then one is the Scottish, maybe. Is that
Well,
how
there's the Blue Lodge, which is the three, and then Red Lodges are maybe lodges that are past that. There's only a Blue Lodge Masonry, which is what makes you a Mason, and then I guess those other lodges are York and Scottish, right? I don't know.
famous there's the Blue Lodge, which is more like the French ancestry. The Scottish Rite is the Red Lodge. And so think about like the Bloods.
This is something he just did, and everyone out there, just so we all know, Blue Lodge, all Masons, to be a Mason, you have to go through the Blue Lodge. You cannot just become a Scottish or York Rite or a Shriner. You have to go through the 3 degrees to become a Mason. Like I said, Masonry is 3 hierarchical degrees, climbing up the steps, and you hit these things, and then all of a sudden you're a Mason, and then everything else is collecting connecting eggs as you're finding them, and that's going to be a Scottish or York, whatever it is. And so that's a stupid conflation of understanding what these things are. Yeah, I guess Red Lodge is French instead of, but that's Scottish instead of. That's stupid.
The Bloods and Crips, the Democrats and the Republicans as red and blue.
Also, the Bloods and the Crips, red and
the
blue.
Blood and the Crips.
Yeah, all this is
this
stupid.
whole idea of
It almost goes back to Jordan Maxwell.
that people articulate
Yeah,
as two wings of the same bird. Ultimately, it's like both are there to govern your mentality, govern your mind, right? So it's like, do we want more laissez-faire? Well, the Republicans are supposed to be more libertarian, more constitutional,
Right.
more like but they don't. But they tend to just end up spending as much
Oh, yeah.
as the blue team.
So the Red Lodge, AI overview. In Freemasonry, the term Red Lodge is a nickname most commonly used to describe the Royal Arch Chapter, a branch of the York Rite, or a lodge that practices the first 30 degrees of Scottish Rite. The name comes from the prominent use of the color red in their rituals, at regalia, and room decorations. Okay. Again, everyone has to be a Mason. You have to go through the Blue Lodge. You cannot do the other things and gain the other badges. You cannot gain the other Pokemon badges without the Blue Lodge initial badge.
Both obviously are just dependent on the same Federal Reserve system, right? So you could say like we've been captured by the Federal, by this debt slave Federal Reserve system since 1913, which is again right around the time that, well, as we know, the income tax came in, which totally unconstitutional, and then also
we agree
the
with
First
these
World War
things that he's
begins,
saying,
and British bring us into their empire because more formally, because before that we were not supposed to be part of the European game. We focused on the Monroe Doctrine was about focusing on our hemisphere, right, bringing the Republic. Our republic as a model, for this region and protecting this region from the.
Thank you, Frater, for the $10 super chat. Occultism as cartoon demonology, collapsing symbolic, mystical, initiatory traditions into fear-driven conspiracy narratives that recreate the exact paranoia at the heart of the satanic panic. Dropping bars, Frater. Thank you for that super chat. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I completely agree.
imperialists of Europe, be it, French, British. I mean, remember during the Civil War, Mexico had a coup by the French, and the British Empire actually couped the Mexican government right around the same time. They were trying to install their puppet there. Yeah. Didn't work out, but Mexico then, again, there's all kinds of puppeteering that goes on, as we know, through the different forces financially. So that's really, I think, the key is like America wanting to be a republic independent of the European empires. With the First World War, Wilson made a huge decision, which I think was a huge blunder, committing us to that war. We should have been an arbiter. We should have said, we're not in favor of either empire. We're going to just arbitrate, a peace deal, and should have stayed neutral, but we didn't. We committed ourselves to the British Empire, and we set up, obviously, as a result of that, with the Versailles Treaty,
Hurt so many people.
the Second World War followed, and we, obviously, again, you can get into the whole history of the financiers behind, Hitler and his rise to power. And so it was like, we're going to play, Germany against, the Soviets, who also got financial support from us. So it's it became a financier's game. And that's why I say, like, the power behind the scenes really, to me, is the financial empire. And, the Rothschilds are obviously a part of that. I don't think they're the be-all, end-all of it, but they're a very important force financially. City of London is a very important force. And the Federal Reserve System, which is spawned from that central banking system of England. So that's when we talk about, like, what, who's the American federal government serving. It's been serving the expansion of a debt slavery monetary system, right? Because we're borrowing money.
Yeah. So, yeah. You got anything for that, Nick?
Sometimes, I don't know how to explain this. With the shit that he's saying, it's like a lot of it, it's like, yeah, like some of that's probably mostly true, but I just think that sometimes getting lost in these type of areas that he's going into keeps you away from understanding what the occult and magic is.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've even said that before, like, originally with the show, the original co-host I had, Lux, we did or even prior to even jumping into the occult, one of the reasons why I joined an order is because I noticed or started getting books on actually practicing magic, is because I realized all the shit that I was watching, I learned, all these orders, all these names, all these supposed bad people, all these things that are so, horrible, but like, I still don't know what the fuck magic is.
Right.
I got lost down the whole like negative conspiracy aspect of it, I guess. And then I was like, I don't know. So like some of the things he was getting at, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's probably right on some of these things, but I just feel like these are like typical hit piece topics to talk about to grab people's attention.
Yeah,
That's like kind of new in the conspiracy theory realm, where like, these are things that people would hear about and be like, oh yeah. That's hard to explain, but I feel like it's tossed in there. I think it's filler.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's really important that we all know that we have a strange history, that certain agencies through times have been built by, say, the bloodline families, royal families, and things like that. And then money from the royal families have been put into certain names, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the like. And upon doing so, then they take other organizations and they build things like the Federal Reserve, Bank of International Settlements.
You know who the first person who, and I'm not saying that they're not incorrect, or I'm not saying they're wrong, and I'm not saying it's a complete psyop, but I do find it interesting, and I just wonder, like, if there is anything small behind it. The first person to ever even give us the name Rothschilds as supposedly being, one of the people running the show was Ezra Pound. And he also, at one point, when he ended up being taken in for treason, supposedly, and had a reason to come over here, they put him, I think it was in St. Elizabeth Hospital. I could be wrong about the name. It was one of the same hospitals that MK Ultra was being done in.
That's crazy. I'm just finding out, bro, that they cut our stream for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it might have been because of showing the movie. I mean, showing that shit.
Oh, yeah, nice.
I'm surprised we made it this long, to tell you the truth. No, 'cause a lot of times if you sorry, I was reading that. Yeah. So no, I even just find that interesting. Is that because like it either like maybe he did have it a book on the occult actually too, but like did he understand that, or was it like I don't know how to explain it, but was it kind of like just tossed it out there to kind of like get catch on as like a thought.
Nice. No, Ezra Pound, I've read a bunch of his poetry too, Frater, but he's deeply integrated in all these things, and it's quite fascinating. Well, it seems like the Archonic Intelligent Agency YouTube people didn't like it so much that we were, and it said that stream was suspended for policy violation from us playing that, because we're dropping too many truths. So that's interesting enough. But then we're back up here, so they allowed us to come back. I don't know what that means. What's that mean? Do you know, Nick?
Yeah, probably because it's not consistent. Like when you go put it back up again, it might shut off.
Oh, I see. I see. Because I pulled it down.
You know what I think was why we got along with? Because I was even thinking about it while we were doing the show.
Yeah.
The reason why I think you got away with it for so long is because at the beginning we weren't playing too much before we talked.
Oh, we were talking a lot.
Yeah, I was like, yo, you're stopping it so much, you may not even be picking it up yet.
Yeah, Frater covered this yesterday, and he had no no cuts, and so that's interesting that people watching all the way through. Yeah, who knows? Well, fascinating enough. I think we got the gist of it, and let's just will they tell me what I did? I don't know. We'll see. We're still here, so it's not like they cut it out completely. And if anything, you get a claim. I'm guessing like a copyright claim.
Oh yeah. If you were to keep on pushing it and doing it like you came back on and kept doing it, maybe eventually after a few times it'd be like, all right, you're a dick, and now you're getting a strike. This will just be an infringement. They'll say it's not a strike, and you just can't monetize it.
Nice, which is fine for this day and age anyway. And so this is fascinating. They're just giving me a little warning. And at MagusintheMedia and Occult Rejects, we kind of push
on the butt.
Well, yeah, we like to push the little things here and there. And so I do think it's almost a badge of honor, but we do want to keep running our mouths, just not maybe on this topic. So I think we've reached our end in this fine fairy tale. I think we've come to understand, and I hope everyone knows out there that the Freemasons, we shouldn't throw under the bus and always want to say that they're the big bad guys when they're not. Actually, I truly do believe the Masons of our world, the Masonic egregore is actually one that's trying to help awaken humanity by awakening the individual, by making good men better. And I think that's really important for us all to know. Also to know that the dark occult is just that. There are dark wizards out there or warlocks, trying to put a spell on all of our consciousnesses to move us into this fear state so they can steal our loosh and continue the farming of our data and our intelligence and our own love states, right? We're love bombing here, love maxing currently. And so, I just think it's really important that we all know that in the Freemasonic world of Hiram Abiff and the Solomon's Temple, that these things should be seen as symbolic, metaphorical, allegorical, and initiatory to change the consciousness of the initiate going through the degrees so they can be the best person that they can be. And we shouldn't fall into the fear that either the scientific materialist or the fundamentalist religious individual wants to continually push us towards, but by truly seeing through things as they are, magic in all ways. We understand that MagusintheMedia and the Occult Rejects are here to help us with small little breadcrumbs as we try to walk our way out of the cave. Nick, tell them where they can find you.
Awesome. I had a blast, man. This was a lot of fun. Thank you. The Occult Rejects here on YouTube as well. BitChute, Rumble, and all major podcasts. I did start a Substack. So check that out. There'll be extra shit on there. Sometimes there'll be like early released show notes before the episode drops. And, there'll be some extra stuff on there. So check it out if you're interested. And we do have occultresearchinstitute.org. That's a website. You can check that out as well. Thank you very much, man.
You're welcome, Nick. This was fantastic. I love doing this. This is MagusintheMedia show. We're bringing you all magic, all myth, all meaning, and all philosophy at all times. And we're just going to continue doing this. I'm doing more and more shows on a daily basis. Most of the time, I'm probably not going to play certain things because we're always on the edge of being in trouble with the great archons of YouTube and social media and copyright strikes. So interesting enough, here we are to bring the fire, the Promethean spark, the Luciferian spirit as much as we can, so we can understand that it is divine or bust, because there's only one way, and that's to make heaven on earth. So this was fantastic. Everyone head on over to my David Beth interview after this, because David Beth drops knowledge on the world with The Black Pilgrimage. I also interviewed Danielle Lane. So if you haven't seen The Woman Who is Enraged with the Divine Passion of Eros, that woman knows how to drop fucking knowledge herself. I have other interviews. Colin Conkright, I chatted with him, and his Universalist book is fantastic, and he's trying to help the cause, as well as I did an interview with Lon Milo Duquette. It's a good hour. I got him to talk about certain things. One of the massive things was Christianity is not the devil, as in it is not what we occultists and magicians are here to do, to rise up and rebel against, but also we're here to help integrate that into our psyche as well as he says one of his biggest things is he hates it when Thelemites say to other people, that's not Thelemic. And so I thought that was a good thing that I got Lon to say.
Wow, that's impressive, actually.
And I didn't get him to say it. I brought it up in certain ways, and through interview, he said it himself. And so Lon Milo Duquette is one of the greats in the spheres of occultism and the Western esoteric tradition.
Yeah. Yo, people listening, go over and hit him up and be like, yo, you need to go on the Occult Rejects.
Yeah.
I cannot get him to come on. I've tried multiple ways. That at this point, it's quite obvious he's said no.
Yeah. And the only reason I think he came on to mine was because Weiser told him to. And so he had no idea who I was. And so we just did an hour, and it was tight. And he did his great talks, and he's a good man. His book, the Aleister Crowley, it's his first fiction book, which was, I have it being sent to me. So I'm going to read it, and then we're going to also do a show on it as well, just because, why not? As well as I will be interviewing Angel Miller. So after make sure to check out the Occult Rejects Angel Miller podcast we all did together. He's gonna it was fun talking to him on Saturday. But really, everyone, just for me, go check out the David Beth. Support Theo and Press. Support David Beth. He's a real G and a real brilliant man in this strange world of the Western esoteric tradition and the straying of the occult tradition itself. So thank you, everybody, for this fine day. Thank you, Nick. And if you all haven't already, subscribe, like, and share, and realize that there is always hope in all the darkness. I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and good night.